Shadows of the MC Book 1. Chapter 1 New Challenge. I walk into the police station with trays full of lunch and goodies. I had a few days off after working some night shifts. I greet Mary at the counter and her eyes dart to the things in my hands. She smiles and arches her eyebrows. I wink and say I'll make sure the men don't eat everything. I walk to the meeting room, where I am greeted enthusiastically by my, mainly, male colleagues. Our commissioner has an important meeting scheduled for a major case, and everyone with the rank sergeant or higher of the corps from Ranchdale must attend. I love it when you've had days off, Vanessa says Mick, my partner and good friend. Yes, only because I'll come back with goodies. I roll my eyes and give him a push. He's a big guy, but mostly in girth. His wife Alice doesn't really want me to bake so many goodies for the men, because according to her, she has to buy clothes in a bigger size every week. As if it's my fault he can't stay away from it. Then he just needs to learn some discipline. She's been busy again. I hear Jack holler from the other side of the room. Jack is our commissioner and I consider him a good friend. He may be 55 years old, but he still walks around like a young god of 30 years. Jack walks over to me and throws an arm over my shoulder. The woman who will help us in the coming months, he says, and I look at him in confusion. He gives me a wink and tells everyone to sit down. He says that he has information about the local motorcycle club, the Red Devils. They seem to be involved in various illegal activities, such as drugs and arms trafficking. He wants someone to go undercover at the club in the coming months and gain the trust of the people who work there, and hopefully gain some more information about the legal activities. It just so happens that at the supermarket, my wife, Lisa, spoke to Morgan, the wife of Hammer, the president of the club. They are looking for someone to help in the kitchens and behind the bar. Morgan asked if my wife could think of someone who would want that. Jack says, and he ends his words with his eyes on me. I can already feel the storm coming. The woman who regularly comes to work with good food is screwed. I roll my eyes because there must be men here in the room who can cook just fine. They just don't flaunt it. So I thought of you, Vanessa, he says, and I cross my arms. Because I can't cook, I say with some venom, and he shrugs. Among other things, you're also a beautiful young woman of 27 years old and who don't take shit from others. Something you'll need at the club, he says, and I hear some approving murmurs going through the room. I don't have any experience with undercover work, Jack. Why don't you choose Brady? He has experience with it, and cooking isn't that hard, I say, irritated. I can't even fry an egg, Ness. And I'm still working on another case, Brady says, and I roll my eyes at the nickname. So annoying. I wonder how Pat puts up with you, I snap, and the room erupts in laughter. Silence. You will be informed in the coming days about how the MC life works. We have already sent them a fake resume for you. You can come for an interview on Saturday, Jack says, and my mouth falls open. Fuckers, I haven't even agreed yet. Everyone will be further informed by their own supervisor. Everything you hear about this gang must be told to me or your supervisor. Jack waves everyone away, and I raise myself to say something more. He shakes his head and says he wants to speak to me in private. Many eyes are on me, and this whole situation irritates me. Undercover work has never been my job, and now all of a sudden, because I can cook and look pretty, I've been found feet. Undercover work is very hard mentally. You suddenly have a second life. Lying is not something I like to do, and I seriously wonder if I'm suitable for this. I'm left alone in the room with Jack, Brady, and Mick. Jack gives me a brochure and tells me that we can sit down for a while. Vanessa, I know this comes as a shock, but I can think of a better person than you. You're strong, you're a great cook, and you're a great cop. I know I should have talked about this with you, but this case came up in a very short time, and I had to make quick decisions. Brady said that you can always go to him for advice. Read this folder carefully. It contains very important information about the hierarchy and important people of the club, Jack says. Saturday is 3 days away, Jack. I'm doing it because I trust you, but I'm not happy with how you're preparing me for this. If all I have to do is cook and stand behind the bar, then I'll be okay. I'll prepare as good as I can. But if I don't trust something, I'm out. I hiss at him while he holds up his hands and smiles. I walk to my desk and put the folder in the drawer. Then I go to the lockers to get ready. I have to patrol a protest march as going on in the center. After a few hours I come back, grab the folder and sit down at my desk to read it. Ashley O'Connor. Great. I hadn't even thought about having a different name. Unmarried, 27 years old. Work experience at a local diner and bakery. Well, if I don't get hired now. The president of the Red Devils is Reed Davis, aka Hammer. He is a 46-year-old man and married to Morgan Davis, who is 43. Together they have two daughters, Lush, who is 19, and Liv, who is 21. They were young when they got married and had children. The VP is Steele, a 35-year-old man about whom little is known. It is not known whether he has a partner, and his real name is also unknown. It is known that he is the man when it comes to knowledge and working on engines, which is probably why he's called Steele. There is a third in command. His name is Ink. His first name is Roger, but his last name is unknown. He is the owner of the Red Devil Tattoo Shop, where he works 5 days a week. He is a somewhat younger man of 26 years old, and he is regularly seen with the so-called Devil's Girls. These are ladies who work in the club and provide entertainment, and I mean all kinds of entertainment. I just hope I don't have to do that kind of entertainment. Then I'll go straight home. I decide to stick with it and head home, but not before stopping at McDonald's for a nice meal. It's that time of the month, and I don't always feel like cooking for myself. The following days consist of research and courses about life in a motorcycle gang. I'm getting more and more confident in it, and I can't deny that I'm a lot more excited about it. On Friday, I finish early afternoon, and I decide to go to a nail salon to get a manicure. I don't normally do my nails, but I thought it would come in handy now if they looked a little more groomed. Then I buy some cool clothes like biker boots, a leather jacket, and some tight skinny jeans. It may be a bit cliché, but otherwise I have no idea what to do, and this is the best I could come up with. When I get home, I make a nice warm bath for myself. The past few days have been stressful. I can't say that I am ready, and we have a good plan in place. I have a burner phone that keeps me in touch with Jack and Brady. They're the only ones who have that number. I decide to go to bed early because the next morning I have to be there at 8 a.m. Chapter to the club. I wake up with a break in my stomach. The dreams I've had about the club are not comforting. I decide to curl my long blonde hair with a big curl and put on a neutral makeup. I combine my black skinny jeans with a white body and a black leather jacket over it. Together with my biker boots, it seems like the perfect look. I take some coffee with me in a to-go cup and eat a banana. That's all I can do at the moment. I get my stuff and drive towards the clubhouse, which is somewhere on the outskirts of Ranchdale. The driveway is long, much longer than I thought, and it somehow makes me nervous. I arrive at a gate where two young men are on guard. They clearly do not recognize my car and are immediately alert. I roll open my window and give them my sweetest smile. One of the men comes to my door and leans his hands on the door. "What are you doing here, miss?" he asks, and I see he can't be older than 20. "Me name is Ashley. I have an appointment with Morgan for a vacancy," I say as sweetly as possible, but I mentally kick myself for almost mentioning my own name. His eyes light up and he gets a big smile. "Are the new chef? We can't wait for you to start," he says. "I haven't even been hired yet," I laugh, and he shrugs. "If you can't cook, you're probably hired anyway. Morgan is a lovely woman, but cooking is not her specialty, is it? Don't tell her I told her that," he says with shocked eyes. I giggle and he steps away from my car. He points to the clubhouse to where I may park my car. He does tell me that I can get too close to the bikes. They are sacred. I walk towards the entrance. The door is ajar and I push it open. I immediately end up in a huge space. On the one side, all sitting areas with tables and a number of lounge chairs. On the other side is a large bar. Behind the bar are large display cases with different types of alcoholic drinks. There are also some pool tables in the room and dartboards on the wall. All eyes shoot at me. There are about 6 men sitting at the bar with a beer at 8:00 in the morning. In the booths are 2 more men with both a lady on their lap. Given the clothing of the ladies, I think these are the famous Devil's Girls. But that is purely based on looks. They might as well be ladies. I somewhere else. "You idiots make her uncomfortable," a woman shouts who walks through a swing door. All eyes immediately go elsewhere. It is clear she's a bossy lady. The woman is at least 5'11" feet tall, with beautiful curly brown hair and a big smile on her face. She walks over to me and extends her hand enthusiastically. "I'm Morgan. You must be Ashley," she says, and I give her a smile back. "That's right. Nice to meet you," I say kindly and shake her hand. "You have no idea how happy I am that you are here. Come, let's walk towards the kitchen. Then we can talk, quietly, she says, and I follow her through the swing door into the kitchen. My mouth falls open from what I see. This kitchen is like a wet dream. Beautiful, isn't it? She grins and I can only nod and take in my surroundings. I convinced Reed to renovate the kitchen last year. Before this, it was a ruin. And I have to say, it's a beauty, she says as she proudly stretches out her arms and shows me everything. This is like a wet dream, I say, and she bursts out laughing. She shows me everything in the kitchen, and then she takes me to the bar and explains to me what happens every day. We often start making breakfast around 8:30 am. Some men want to have breakfast earlier, but they do it themselves. They often have church at 9 and then come out to eat. Then we have lunch around 1 and dinner around 7. In the evening, the Devil's Girls rotate behind the bar. And in the weekends, you should definitely be behind the bar with the girls due to the crowds. But if you have bar duty, you can start later. Otherwise, the days will be too long, she says, and I nod. She tells me to follow her, and we walk down a long corridor to a small office where we sit down. What do you think of it so far? She asks. So far, I'm very excited. I must honestly say that I hadn't often cooked in large quantities. But I'll figure that out, I say with a smile. Hopefully, I'm convincing enough. Nice, because as far as I'm concerned, you're hired right away. I desperately need someone. Our previous cook disappeared overnight, and I've been doing it myself for the past month. Cooking is just not my greatest talent, and I noticed that fewer and fewer men kept eating, she says with a glint in her eye, and she laughs out loud. Oh, that was easy. She didn't even ask about my background. I'd like to come and work here. I think we can work it out together, I say with a wink. She agrees, and we spend a few minutes planning a schedule for the week ahead. This looks good. Let's try it out for a week. Then you'll see if it's something for you. Of course, we also look at how you are doing here. But I have a good feeling about you, says Morgan, and I agree. Can you start today? Then we can make lunch together, she asks, and I nod. I have nothing to do today. I'm happy to help you, I say enthusiastically, and she happily claps her hands. I'm busy putting breakfast on the buffet tables and see more and more men walking in. They look at me questioningly but say nothing. Morgan comes and stands next to me and puts out jugs of coffee and tea. There is a lot of food, and I have to give Morgan credit for doing this alone for a month. I'll introduce you to the guys in a minute, but I'll wait until they're done with church. Then I first introduce you to my husband Reed. He is the president of the club, she says while looking at the buffet table. As if they were smelling the food, a large door swings open and the men pour out. One of the men has his eyes on Morgan and walks over to her, puts an arm around her waist and kisses her cheek. Hey babe, who is this? Asks the man. This is Ashley, the new cook and my lifesaver, she says with a wink at me. Reed, but here at the club, they call me Hammer, he says and holds out his hand, which I take. Ashley, nice to meet you. Thank you for this opportunity, I say as politely as possible. Reed is a big guy, at least 6 feet, and he has a bald head with a big beard. He has a fairly rough appearance, but is clearly still fit, given the narrow waist and broad shoulders. Anything for my Morgan, he says, and Morgan rolls her eyes, causing Reed to chuckle. They're clearly still very much in love, and I'm almost jealous of the way they look at each other. Are you familiar with this life, Ashley? Reed asks, and I shake my head. A lie, but I love to hear what he has to say. You'll find out as you go along. But know that the men here are eager for women. We have the Devil's Girls here for a reason. They make sure the men stay satisfied and can express their frustrations in the astral field. From now on, you have to make it clear whether you want that to, or whether you are off limits, he says seriously, and I nod, grateful for his explanation. I don't intend to become a Devil's Girl. Just let me cook. Others are better at other things, I say with a smile. He nods satisfied and puts his fingers in his mouth, after which a loud whistle sounds through the room. Ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention. I'd like to introduce you to Ashley, our new cook and Morgan's right-hand woman, he yells, and the crowd erupts in cheers that make me laugh. She's off limits. You talk and treat her with respect, he growls, and I have to admit, this man has authority. There is some disappointed muttering, and I can suppress a smile. Apparently some had hopes for more than food. Reed turns back to me and Morgan wraps her arms around his waist. Welcome to the family, Ashley. Let me introduce you to some of the ranking members here in the club. The rest of the men you will get to know as time goes by, he says, and he gives me a nod that I should follow him. I give Morgan a questioning look and she nods encouragingly. Looks like I'll be meeting some members. Chapter 3 First Day. He takes me to a booth where 4 men are sitting. Reed points to the one on the left. A tall thin man full of tattoos. Ink, my third in command, and our regular tattoo artist. He's the reason we're so handsome, he says with a wink at me and I giggle softly. Welcome Ashley. We appreciate your help, Ink says, giving me a friendly impression. He has long brown hair tied in a mon bun and brown eyes. He's got a little too many tattoos for my taste, but he's quite a handsome man. Reed points to the right side of the boat. He skips the 2 men who sit in the middle. They both put a hand on their chest in fake hurt. I laugh at their antics. This brute here is Steele, my vice president. He's the guy who takes over from me when I can be there, he says, patting the man on the shoulders. Steele stands up and my eyes widen. I can't see why Reed called him a brute, and I can't think of 3 reasons why his name is Steele. One is because of his physical appearance, as this man is at least 6, 8 feet and very muscular and toned. 2 is because of his eyes, which have a beautiful light gray color, and because of his dark brown hair, they're even more striking. And the 3rd is probably because of his knowledge about bikes and engines, but I pretend I don't already know that. He stands in front of me and gives a nod. Welcome, he says in a deep voice, and he walks away towards the bar. I watch him with raised eyebrows, but then quickly return my eyes to the rest. Apparently a man of few words. These men here are Navy and West. Navy is Steele's little brother, and West is West, Reed says, and I get a salute and a wink from both. Welcome, and don't mind my big brother. He's grumpy by default, Navy joked, and I laugh and shrug. Oh, to each his own. Nice to meet you, I say, after which Reed takes me to the kitchen. I'm leaving you in the good hands of my wife again, Reed says, and he walks out of the kitchen again. Morgan and I take another look at the menu for the next few days, and I take a look at the pantry. Morgan asks if I have ideas for dinner, and when I see the pantry, we can make a nice Mexican meal tonight. The rest of the afternoon is fairly quiet. Morgan explains how I make certain drinks, but also tells me that most of what I will pour is beer or whiskey. I stand behind the bar for a few hours. Lunch is for few people and is very quiet. I bring some beer to a table where Navy and West have Saturday down again. They are covered in stains and have clearly worked in a dirty place. Just what the doctor ordered, Navy says with a sigh, and I laugh. I wonder where your doctor did his training, I say jokingly, and Navy grins. Our doctor only wants what's best for us, he winks. Do you have your own doctor? I ask, surprised, and it nods. Certainly. Sometimes we have injuries and they will start asking questions in hospitals. Questions that we can't always answer, he says. West can clearly see the surprise on my face and taps his hand on the couch as a sign for me to sit down. I look around and see that everyone has a drink and no one seems to need anything. I decide to listen to what he has to say. Obviously, you still have a lot to learn about club life. We are not a club that is completely in the illegal business. But there is often a big rivalry between different motorcycle clubs, and that sometimes explodes, he says, and I nod. There was a time when we dealt in drugs and guns, but since Hammer has been president, all business has been legal. His words make me think. He seems very sure of himself, and it's hard not to believe him. But Jack was very adamant that they were intertwined in the illegal business. I definitely need to look into this further. What do you do during church? I ask, and they shrug. Different things. Church is only for members with a patch. Prospects are not allowed in until they have proven themselves to the club. I'm not allowed to go into detail about what we're talking about, but mostly we're talking about the different companies the club invests in. Every member is involved in one of the companies, and the prospects help where we need them, Navy says, taking a big sip of his beer. Thanks for the explanation, I say with a smile, and they greet me by holding up their beer and grinning. I do a round of the room to collect empty bottles and dirty dishes. The door opens and Steele walks in. He is also dirty and covered in stains. His pants have clearly had its best day, but are still tied around his legs in ash. I notice that I was staring at the man a little too long and shake my head to come back to earth. I must not be distracted by a grumpy SI giant during this mission. I look around and see Navy winking at me. Shit, he caught me. I roll my eyes and shake my head. I walk to the bar and start cleaning my tray of dirty dishes. It's the end of the afternoon and I'm about to start dinner. If all goes well, Abby will soon relieve me of my bar duty. Abby is one of the Devil's girls and apparently already a veteran. She is 30 years old and has been working here for almost 8 years. Morgan told me she hopes to become an old lady, but so far the men only want her for what's between her legs. She has told Morgan she won't be doing this for much longer, that it's time to get serious and find a man to marry. Whiskey is growled behind me and I am pulled out of my daydream. I turn around and see Steele sitting at the bar with a steel face. See what I did there? Please, I say with my sweetest smile as I take the whiskey and put it in a glass with ice. He raises an eyebrow and looks at me questioningly. Can I have a whiskey? Please, I say to clarification, and he rolls his eyes and turns to look at the TV. Asshole, I mumble and I walk into the kitchen. I start cutting the onions and peppers. Then I've already done that and then I can start with dinner right away. The door opens and a woman with a short blonde bob walks in. I'm Evie, she says cheerfully and I shake her hand. Ashley, the new cook and whatnot, I say laughing and she giggles. Glad you're here. Shall I take over the bar right away? She asks and I nod. Please. Then I can prepare for dinner, I say while pointing to my cutting board. She gives me a salute and a wink and walks out of the kitchen. Something vibrates in my pocket and I take out the disposable phone and see that I have a text from Jack. His name is just AJ, so no one can see his name. Jay, have you been accepted? Is everything alright? Q, yes. Started right away today. Everything is okay. J, any new info? Delete these text messages immediately. Q, they say they're not doing anything illegal. J, we'll call after work on Monday. J, delete these text messages. Q, I will. I close the phone and take out my own mobile. I see that I have a message from an unknown number and open it. Anonymous, hey beautiful, long time no see. I really wonder who this is. All the people relevant in my life I have saved in my phone. Vanessa, who is this? I decide to worry about it later and put my phone in my back pocket. I continue to cut the vegetables. The knives they have here are brand new and razor sharp. Before I know it, I've cut my index finger while cutting an onion. I drop the knife to the floor and utter a few swear words. I put my finger under the tap. The onion juice stings and I want to make sure I don't need stitches. My hand is grabbed by another huge hand under the faucet, and I smell a wonderful masculine scent. Steele stands close to me and inspects my hand. Silently he walks to the pantry and returns with a plaster. He puts it on my finger and looks at me intensely. I almost feel like a naive child with the look he gets me. Thanks, I say awkwardly, not knowing what else to say. I thought you were experienced, he mutters and I look at him fiercely. Anyone can accidentally cut themselves. Please keep your judgments to yourself, I snap. What a jerk. Why am I inexperienced when I cut myself? Look, technically I'm not that experienced, but it doesn't need to know that. I stomp out of the kitchen and walk towards the toilets. There I take some deep breaths before I bite a big grumpy giant's head off. Chapter for Steele. I put my tools back in their place in the workshop and wash my hands. Hammer's Harley at leaked oil is ready after repair. Eventually a whole new tank had to be put under it. Hammer doesn't like to be without his baby and he has been bothering me regularly in recent days with updates about his second love. Or first. Depends on whether Morgan is there when he talks about it. Asher helped me all day along with West. The two are inseparable and sometimes I wonder if my little brother doesn't have more than friendly feelings for West. Asher retired from the Navy 2 years ago and couldn't wait to join me and the club. There is quite an age difference between us. He is 29 and I am 35. Our parents were always proud of the fact that my father served the country in the army for so long. So it was expected of both of us that we would also serve the nation. Asher entered the Navy as a technician and worked on an aircraft carrier on the fighter jets and helicopters that were stationed there. When he was a prospect at the club, he quickly got the name Navy, given his past job. I worked as a Navy SEAL for several years. Our missions were on the sea, air and land, hence the name SEAL. We went after the high-level targets, or we tried to get information behind enemy lines. I've had to stand still in the water for hours in the jungle, or navigate blizzards in Siberia. I've always been a big man. When I entered puberty I shot up and soon I was up to 6-7 feet. The training sessions with the SEALs added a lot of muscles, which made me a big-looking dude. My mates at the SEALs often called me the lethal giant. Enemies often underestimated my speed and mobility. I would take them by surprise when they came up against me in combat. When I was 30, I stopped with the SEALs, partly because of a shot in the abdomen that left me with one less kidney, but also because I needed a more stable base. I had seen enough danger in my still young life. The name still came to me soon after I earned my place in the club, and it wasn't just because of my looks. The SEALs had smoothed out quite a few of my emotions, and I'm often called out for having a default straight face. In addition, Asher and I both know a lot about engines and their techniques, another reason for my nickname. Hammer and I quickly became good friends. We are often on the same page, and I helped him a lot with making the club legal. His father Hank got himself in deep trouble with some drug cartels, and we lost a lot in the fight for the money he owed them from Hank, including Hank himself. In my early years as a club member, I went to see a devil's girl every day. I have a high SX drive and was happy that the club could help me with that. In my years with the SEALs, you sometimes couldn't give in to the need for SX for long periods of time. The only thing that could help you was your own hand. It's been some time since I've been with a woman. The devil's girls don't do it for me anymore, and the need for permanent relationships is big. You might not expect it, but I'm a pretty shy guy. Asher is always so outgoing and always knows what to say. I, on the other hand, am more of a silent listener and not good at starting conversations. I walk from the workshop to the clubhouse. It's about a 10-minute walk, and I like to stretch my limbs after spending the day in crazy positions around a bike. I walk in and first go to my room to freshen up, then put on black sweatpants and black t-shirt and go downstairs for a drink. Ashley is doing the dishes with her back to me, and I take a moment to watch her, because she's definitely worth watching. She has taken off her jacket, and through her tie top and pants, you can see her beautiful figure. She has beautiful long blonde hair that falls in curls on her lower back. Her narrow waist stands out because of her somewhat wider hips, something I find extremely SI in a woman. Whiskey, I mumble, and I mentally beat myself in the head for my tone. She turns and looks at me searchingly. Please, she says, and I wonder if I've been staring at her too long and not hearing her question. Can I have a whiskey? Please, she says in an overly sweet tone, and I roll my eyes. Don't think I'm going to say please now. I turn around and focus on the TV. I hear her mumble Ashel and can't help but grin. Moments later, I hear someone swearing in the kitchen, and I go to take a look to see what's going on. Ashley puts her hand under the tap, and there is a large knife on the floor. I walk over to her, take her hand and inspect the wound. It's not deep, so a band-aid should be enough. I put a bandage around a finger, and after that I manage to insult her with a shitty comment afterwards. Steam is just about to come out of her ears when she storms out of the kitchen. I follow her but decide not to follow her into the toilets. Asher joins me while I'm still looking at the toilets like a lost puppy. Dude, did you scare her off with your grumpy face? He cackles, and I give him a deadly look. Okay, you, I growl, and he laughs louder. Try to laugh more. That works, he says, slapping me on the back and walking away. Steal, someone shouts, and I turn to see Hammer walking into the clubhouse with Morgan. My office. Now he growls, and I already know something is wrong. Morgan glances at me and walks into the kitchen. I see Ashley dart past me and enter the kitchen as well. She gives me another deadly look, and I make a mental note to apologize later. I follow Hammer into his office and take a seat at the table. A moment later, Morgan arrives with a jug of coffee and some biscuits, and then leaves the room again. Ink is on his way. I've asked Hack to come too, Hammer mutters as he starts typing on his computer. I nod and wait quietly in my chair. Hammer has a big frown on his head, and I know he has something on his mind. Ink and Hack both stumble in and sit next to me in the empty seats. Hack smells strongly of weed, and I scrunch up my nose. Not my favorite smell. Hammer sighs and runs a hand through his hair. We all sit silently waiting for him to start talking. We will be investigated by the police, he begins, and I sit up a bit. According to Justin, our local police insider, they are making a plan to prove that we are still in the legal business, he growls. Dut, we've been clean for years. How do they want to do that? I ask, actually more to myself than to the rest. Justin wondered that too. He came to me today and asked if we really didn't do anything illegal. I assured him that there is nothing wrong here, but we have to look after ourselves and each other in the coming time. Hack, I want you to go see if you can get into their system and see what they're up to, Hammer says, and Hack straightens up and leaves the room. Hack is a boy of 22 years old, but nobody knows computers as much as him. He joined us when he was 20, and he quickly earned a spot as a member. Keep your ears and eyes open at your workspaces, guys. Don't tell anyone yet. I want this to stay between us, he says seriously, and we nod in confirmation. Dismissed, he mutters, and we walk out of his office. I have finished the design for your tattoo. Will you come by to view it? Ink says, and I grunt as an agree. I wonder what he made of it. The smell of food fills my nostrils, and my stomach starts to rumble. Ashley and Morgan are setting up the buffet, and I take a seat in the boot with Asher and West. Have you said sorry to your girl yet? Asher asks, and I shake my head. His girl? West asks. Nosy bastard. She's not my girl, you nosy Asher, I growl, and Asher and West look at me in surprise. Navy, did he just say more than 2 words? West says in fake shock, and Asher grins wickedly. Apparently my brother's extensive vocabulary is getting him into trouble with the women. This afternoon, he insulted the new cook. Asher grins, and I actually want to punch him in the mouth. I get up and make my way to the bar, which is a lot more crowded because it's Saturday afternoon and it's almost dinner time for the club members who live here near the clubhouse. I hear Navy and West laughing behind me, and I roll my eyes. I'm glad my brother found such a good friend in West. But together, they're terrible. Chapter 5. Sorry. I'm exhausted. And to think Morgan just asked me to work tomorrow too. She said I could have Monday and Tuesday morning off, and then I have to work late on Tuesday. I need to contact Jack that Monday or Tuesday morning would be best to get together to discuss everything. The men are currently enjoying the food Morgan and I have made. Morgan taking notes so she can improve her cooking. Morgan is a real sweetheart. I think we could become really good friends if I stayed here. She told me that both her daughters go to a college several hours away. She misses them terribly but is happy that they're doing so well in school. My gaze glides over the men who come to the buffet for a second time. It looks like the food is pleasing. I see that Steele has completely stuffed his plate with tacos and nacho casserole for the second time. His intense gray eyes flicker at me, and the corners of his mouth turn up a little. This is the first time I've seen him semi-smile, and it's a beautiful sight. Stern eyes are in love, someone sings in my ear, and I look surprised next to me where I see Navy standing with a grin. Do you mean me? Or you? I say with a raised eyebrow, and his ears slowly turn red. I was talking about the hard eyes you send to my brother, he stammers. I burst out laughing and shake my head. No, sorry, Navy. I'm not interested in your brother, I laugh. Why did your ears turn red when I asked if you were talking about you or me? I ask after a little silence, and the red that colored his ears now goes to his cheeks. Ew, look, dessert, he says completely exaggerated and walks away, but not before throwing a wink over his shoulders at me. I look at West eating at a table next to Steele. His eyes are fixed on Navy and then look at me. The only name for that look is jealousy. I give West a wink and it quickly looks the other way. His cheeks also get a redder color, and I could smell it at the sight. It's now 8:00, and I think my legs are going to fall off. I sit on top of the counter and grab my phone. I see that I've been called a few times by an unknown number, but no voicemail has been left. It's the same number that texted earlier in the day. They didn't respond to my message, so I'll leave it alone. A throat is cleared, and I look up. Steele is standing a few feet away from me with his hands in his pockets. Can I say something? He says while looking me in the eye, and I'm not smiling. He comes closer and is clearly searching for words in his head. It's funny that such a big brutal man has trouble finding words. I'm sorry, he mutters, and I press my lips together to keep from laughing. Did he have to think about that for so long? For earlier, I didn't mean to offend you, he mutters and looks at the floor. I follow his eyes and look at his shoes. What size shoes do you have? I say, and I slap myself in front of my mouth. I didn't mean to express my thoughts out loud. He chuckles and I look at him shocked. Is he laughing? Don't look so surprised. He growls and his face immediately tightens again. I didn't know the grumpy giant could laugh. I giggle and I see the corners of his mouth go up. He sighs and turns and walks away. I jump off the counter and run after him, grabbing his arm to stop him. He turns and I look up into his beautiful gray eyes. They're really beautiful. Sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. I appreciate you coming to say sorry, I say with a smile, hoping to put him at ease. I see his shoulders relax and his face becomes less rigid. It's a pity I won't be here so long, but otherwise I would have definitely taken a shot with this man. He takes a step forward and it looks like he's about to give me a hug, but he seems to change his mind and scratches himself behind the head. See you around, it mutters, turns and walks out of the kitchen. Morgan walks into the kitchen and she looks behind her in surprise. What have you done? I swear I saw Steele blush, she says, confused. He came to apologize and I think he wanted to give a hug, but eventually changed his mind, I say with a shrug, and Morgan laughs. Steele is a man of many faces, which sounds crazy since he always seems grumpy. He's a great and strict VP for the club. He doesn't take shit from prospects. In the beginning, he had a different devil's girl every day, probably to discharge. But when it comes to the real thing in terms of women, he's a softie, she says with a wink. What about Navy and West? I ask. I couldn't really only suppress my curiosity for so long. Holy shit, so you see it too? She almost screams and I nod and smile. I mentioned it to Reed a few days ago and they brushed it off, but I swear they like each other. Or maybe they're already together, but haven't dared to come out yet, she enthuses. Exactly my thoughts. Maybe we women notice it more, I say thoughtfully, and she nods. Men can be so ignorant when it comes to love sometimes, she chuckles, and I can only agree. How do you feel about today? She asks and I sigh. Very nice. It's tiring. My feet are terribly, I say, laughing. Go home. Can you be here tomorrow around lunch and then work until 9 o'clock? Long day. I know, but Sunday is the busiest day of the week, she says apologetically, and I shrug my shoulders. Fine. I'm used to long days, I say, and grab my coat and bag. I wish Morgan a good evening and walk out of the clubhouse. Outside I wave to some club members and they thanked me for the delicious food. When I get home, I throw off my clothes and run my bath. I throw in a bath bomb and slide myself in. My apartment is small but fine for one person. I am most happy with my bathroom. Despite the small apartment, they still put a fairly large bath in the bathroom. One of the reasons why I moved here. After the bath, I put on clean underwear and a t-shirt. That's all I need while sleeping. My dreams are filled with Harleys, beautiful kitchens, and a grumpy giant. The next morning, I call Jack and tell him about the day I had yesterday. So they're saying they're not doing anything illegal? He asks, surprised. I haven't talked to everyone yet, but this man was very firm about their current illegal free status, I say, and I hear him mumble something unintelligible in the background. What might be interesting is what they discussed during church. Maybe it's an idea to place eavesdropping equipment there. Only I don't know how yet, I say thoughtfully, and he hums approvingly. I'll get to it right away. Hopefully I'll have it tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. In the meantime, you can go and see how you're going to put it there, he says, and I agree. After this conversation, I sit on the couch thinking about my day and what's to come. I know church is for club members only, and I don't think I fall into that category. Maybe I can try putting some in Hammer's office. That's an easier task than church. I change, put on some makeup, and do my hair. It's time for another long day. Chapter 6, Chef. The afternoon passes quietly and I'm doing fine on my own. Beska is one of the devil's girls that was supposed to help me at the bar, but was dragged away after a while by Ink, who apparently is a regular customer of hers. She promised me she'd be back before dinner, but the look in Ink's eyes didn't bode well, so we'll see. In the meantime, I should actually start on dinner, only there is no one who can take me over at the bar. I look around and don't see a single familiar face. I haven't seen Morgan all day either. I get a bit of an uncomfortable feeling, but try to push that away because it's not really necessary. Right. I decide to walk into the kitchen anyway. I open the door with a doorstop so I can see and hear someone if they want something at the bar. I peel a lot of potatoes and put them in a pan to soften them. I cut some carrots, celery, onion, and grab some peas from the freezer. I bake the vegetables with minced meat in a pan and finally add some tomato puree and Worcestershire sauce, some herbs as extra seasonings, and the sauce is ready. I mash the potatoes with some butter and milk so that it becomes smooth like butter. Then I put the mash on top of the sauce and top it off with some grated cheese. It may not be the real original shepherd's pie, but it's my version of it and my friends always love it. I have enough for casseroles and I'm betting it's enough for everyone who stays for dinner. I put the dishes in the oven and set a timer for 30 minutes. Then I prepare the plates and cutlery on the buffet table. The front door flies open and Hammer, Steele, West, and Navy burst in and head towards the crutch room. Zhursh, Hammer yells, and everyone immediately stands up and follows Hammer. It was quiet in the clubhouse, but several members keep walking in. I see a lot of new faces. I look around a bit bewildered, having no idea what to do next. Then Steele walks out of the room towards me. He pushes me into the kitchen with some force. Sorry for the chaos all of a sudden. That's how it goes here, sometimes he says with a shrug. What is going on? Is it serious? I ask and he nods. Yes, unfortunately it is. I can't really tell you anything yet, but maybe later, he says calmly, and I don't think I've ever heard this man talk so much. He puts one of his hands on my cheek and lifts my head so that I have to look at him. Don't worry. Would you like to make some coffee with some snacks for us and bring that in? Just knock when you're done, he says softly, and I can only nod. His hand on my cheek feels very intimate and I don't know what to do with it. I can bring in dinner instead of snacks. It will be ready in a couple of minutes, I say. Good idea. We'll probably be there for a while. Thanks, he says with a smile. He lets go of my face and promptly turns around and walks out of the kitchen. I look around and look for something to bring the food to them. I don't really feel like walking back and forth 10 times. I find a serving cart in the pantry and stack some plates, cups, jugs of coffee and water, and cutlery on top. The oven beeps and I take out the dishes and put 2 on the cart and take the other 2 to the buffet table so the prospects who are not in church can start eating. Grateful words are murmured when I come back a little later with a large bowl of salad for the side. Fortunately, these men like it. I roll the serving cart towards the room where they have church and I knock on the door. A little later the door is opened by Ike and I get a big smile and it beckons me inside. The atmosphere feels uncomfortable. Sad, angry. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I feel like getting out of there. In the last moment, my eyes crash with Steele's and I see a twinkle of sadness shining into them. The stoic that normally covers his face is almost vulnerable right now. They have been in that room for at least hours. The prospects have closed the clubhouse to visitors, and at the moment, there are only 6 people chilling in the room. Beska tried to get some attention from the men, but none of them are in the mood for the activity she had in mind. The door opens and the men trickle out one by one. There is little to read on their faces, and that frustrates me. One of the things I was good at in my training was reading faces. I could quickly see if someone was lying or not. For example, most of them immediately go outside. I hear several engines start and drive away. Ink pulls Becky with him. I haven't been in the part where all the sleeping quarters are yet, but I know they're heading that way. Steele and Navy take a seat at the bar. Wes whispers something in Navy's ear, and he also leaves for the sleeping quarters. Whiskey Steele mumbles as he looks down at his hands folded on the table, his head suddenly jerking as if realizing something. Please, he says with a small smile, and I laugh out loud, which also makes the smile on his face grow bigger. It's nice to know that people your age can still learn, I say with a wink as I pour him a glass of whiskey. Dude, she just called you old, Navy chuckles as he elbows Steele. Shut up, annoying little shit, Steele mumbles, and I snort at his statement. Serious, I can't help the fact that I look like a dwarf next to you. While I'm normal height, Navy rolls his eyes and asks for a beer. Navy's eyes dart to the TV and he swears. They are discussing the game played this afternoon. Shit. I missed the game. Who won? He asks me and I shrug my shoulders. I don't remember the team. They were wearing green, I say thoughtfully, and Navy's mouth falls open. I'm going to give you an NFL course soon. It's a shame you don't know who's what team. But it's nice to know that the Eagles won, he says reprimanding, and I roll my eyes and shrug my shoulders. Sport never really interested me. May I ask, what was going on? I ask and I lean my elbows on the bar and put my head in my hands, ready to hear all the juice. Steele's eyes dart to my cleavage and linger there for a moment. Then he clears his throat and looks into my eyes. I'm sure my cheeks are red by now, and judging by his smirk I'm right. I don't know if, starts Navy but still holds up his hand to shut his brother up. It's okay. This afternoon a brother of ours was found in a ditch. He is still alive, but the question is whether it will ever wake up, Steele says glumly, and again I see a flicker of emotion in his eyes. Did you know him well? I ask and they both nod. His name here at the club was Chef. You may have heard from Morgan that our previous chef has suddenly disappeared. He had been with our club for a number of years and eventually became our regular cook because he used to do the cooking school. His disappearance was mysterious, and we've been working on it behind the scenes for a while, says Navy, and it takes several large sips of beer. I grab a new bottle of beer from the fridge and place in front of him. Then I refill Steele's glass of whiskey and they both thank me. Apparently he overdosed, Steele says with a furrowed brow, and I notice a certain yout. You don't seem convinced, I remark, and his eyes meet mine. Fouquet, they're so beautiful. That's right, he says, and for the first time I'm really frustrated that he speaks with so few words. I try to wring as much information out of him as possible, but he doesn't give much. Why do you think he didn't overdose? I ask, and he frowns again. I knew him pretty well, and I've never seen him use anything, he says with conviction. Many people use drugs while no one sees it. It regularly happens under someone's nose, I say, and I notice that I'm going into interrogation mode. I have to dim my inner police officers. Steele lets his glass on the bar and looks at me angrily. He gets up and storms towards the sleeping quarters. Is it? I mutter. A, because I wanted to find out more, and B, because I feel guilty for being pretty insensitive. He blames himself for not finding Chef sooner. They had been working on it for several weeks but got no further. In addition, he was quite close with him, so it hits a nerve, Navy says as he finishes his second beer. I didn't mean to hurt him. It just sounded pretty naive, what he said, I say, looking in the direction Steele has walked. I agree. We just can't tell you everything. But what I can tell you is that the circumstances are suspicious, he says, getting up from his stool and stretching. Steele's room is at the end of the corridor on the right. Number 2, he says with a wink, and it also leaves for the sleeping quarters. Becky comes back and says she'll be behind the bar for the rest of the night and I can't go home. There is hardly anyone left, so I decide to take her offer. I only had an hour or so left anyway. I grab my jacket and bag and walk to the entrance of the club, where I come to a halt. My gaze goes to the door to the sleeping quarters, and I decide to apologize to Steele. When I walk down a long corridor, I hear music, TVs, sounds of S divided by porn or muttering voices coming from different rooms. Apparently all rooms are occupied, and many men have decided to sleep here in the clubhouse tonight. I arrive at room 2 and I listen at the door. I really don't hear that much and decide to knock. I hear some shuffling and the door flies open. An irritated Steele stands in front of me and I have to swallow. He's only wearing sweatpants. I repeat, only sweatpants. His chest is bare except for light hair and it is in perfect condition. I have to struggle not to drool over his biceps and forearms. Fouquet, can I help you? He growls low and my gaze shoots to his eyes. I was going to say sorry. I shouldn't have been so insensitive, I mumble as I look at my hands fidgeting together. There is a moment of silence, and I pull my eyes away from my hands and direct them to his intense gray eyes. His face remains stoic, but his eyes roam all over my body, and it's like he leaves goosebumps everywhere he looks. His hand goes to my upper arm, and it pulls me into his room. He closes the door behind us and then pushes me against it. Is that all you came to say? He whispers as he takes a strand of my hair between his fingers and wraps it around his finger. Is it? What am I doing here? Chapter 7, Day Off. Despite the warmth he radiates, a shiver runs through my body, and that in a completely positive sense. His warmth paired with his masculine scent is why my brain is currently out of function. I look into his iron eyes that look at me questioningly and defiantly, but my mouth can only open and close without a sound coming out. Is that all you came here to do? He asks again, and I manage to nod my head. Never in my life has a man held me under a spell this much. There is something about this man that draws me to him, and I just can't tear myself away from him. I have to get out of here. I have to get out of this situation. I've only been here 2 days, and I'm already falling for this grumpy giant. I have to focus on the mission. I have to realize that I will betray them in a while, and they will never want to see me again. At least that's what I assume is going to happen. He pulls the piece of hair that I had wrapped around his finger down hard, forcing me to look him in the eye again. This display of dominance does wonderful things to my body, and I moan in softly. Should I whisper? Also coming to my senses, and I duck under his arm and dart out the door. I don't look back as I practically run out of the building and walk to my car. The way home is a blur, and I sit in the car for a while to recover and collect my thoughts. Once in my house, I fill up the bath and throw in my favorite bath oil. While waiting, I look at the burner and see that I have a text message from Jack. Jay, tomorrow, 9 o'clock, playground. 9 o'clock. Couldn't think of a better time. I just got off an evening shift and was hoping I could sleep in. I pour a glass of wine and take it to the bathroom, where I immerse myself in the warm water. The past few days have been relatively quiet apart from the commotion about Chef. Obviously, still didn't believe Chef was on drugs, but that doesn't mean much. I may have said it a bit insensitively this afternoon, but it happens often enough that someone secretly takes drugs without his surroundings noticing. Sadly, I've seen it often enough that we arrived at an overdose report, and family members were completely shocked that drugs had been found on the patient. Unfortunately, there are quite a lot of drug-related incidents in this town. The police are very busy investigating where all the drugs come from and who is trafficking them. Also, I was not surprised when Jack said that the Red Devils were involved in the drug world. You often hear that biker gangs are related to these crimes. What surprises me is that West and Nivy were convinced that the club was clean. They are both club members and are involved in everything. At least that's what it seems like so far. But of course I don't know if there are still meetings in other places that maybe not everyone knows about. The next day I struggle to get out of bed. My feet still hurt from the day before, even though I'm really used to standing on my feet for a long time. I get in the car and drive to the playground. I know where it is because we agreed on a number of places in advance where we could meet without being noticed. I get out of the car and walk into the park where the playground is located. I spot the playground where a lot of children are playing. There are several tables and chairs around the playground where you can sit. On the side is a stall where you can get coffee and snacks. I spot Jack at one of the tables and see that he has nothing with him. I decide to get the coffees and blueberry muffins at the stall. I take it with me and sit opposite Jack. "You look tired," I say, and he almost laughs mockingly in response. "Hello to you to Vanessa. It's busy at the office. There have been some problems," he says thoughtfully, and I nod. I look around and don't see anyone I know. There are mainly some parents whose children are playing in the playground. I had a longer conversation with the members of the club about what the club does and what they discuss during church. According to them, they are completely clean and not involved in illegal business anymore. I start and Jack rolls his eyes. "Of course they say that. They're not going to trust you with everything after today's," he says as he starts eating his muffin. "What do they discuss at church? Is that accessible to everyone?" he asks, and I shake my head. "No, it is only for club members. Prospects, Devil's girls and other women who are not members are not allowed to enter, and what they discuss should not be told." I know a little bit about what was discussed yesterday, I say, and it signals that I should tell. "They found the one I replaced in a ditch yesterday. He doesn't appear to be in good shape. His club name was Chef, and in the hospital they said he had overdosed. But I spoke to two men from the club who were convinced that he was not taking drugs. There's something going on in Jack's eyes that I can't put my finger on. He's quiet for a while and looks a bit into the distance. Maybe he had a second life outside the club," Jack mumbles, and I shrug. "It could be." Jack picks up a backpack from the floor and pulls out a present. My eyebrows shoot up and I look at him in surprise. "It's not what you think. This is the eavesdropping equipment. You have 3 pieces." He laughs with a wink and I laugh along. "Too bad. I was hoping for a belated birthday present," I say with a smile, and he shakes his head. "It's not always a party. See if you can put it in the church room. Or in an office of someone important like Emmer. I assume he has one." He asks. "Sure. The second one should be easy. Church is another story. But I'll come up with a solution," I say thoughtfully. "I don't expect anything else from you. Try to get closer with the members next week and try to get information out of them. I can't imagine that didn't work out last weekend because of the settling in," he says sternly, and I roll with my eyes with a smile. "You got it, boss. I'll keep you posted," I say with a smile and get up. We say goodbye and both walk our separate ways to our car. It's strange talking to Jack so anonymously and not in uniform. Normally when I arrive at work, I am immediately in a different mode. But this time it felt like I was going to meet a friend in the park. I have to figure out a way to get the equipment into the church room. It will probably be difficult to just go into that room. I decide to give it some thought and take it one day at a time. But I have to make sure I always have one in my pocket, in case there's an unexpected chance I can't place it. The next day, I don't have to work until the end of the afternoon, so I decide to get some groceries for at home. I drive to work a little earlier because I wanted to drop by Inkstad shop, in the guise of getting to know everyone better. I walk into the shop and am greeted by a prospect I had briefly seen over the weekend. "Hi, Ashley." He greets me enthusiastically and holds out his hand. Denzel says, and I ask him if it is his real name or his road name. It's my road name. Apparently I look like Denzel Washington, only a few years younger, he says with a wink, and I giggle. He couldn't not be much older than 20. Do you want some ink on your body? He asks, and I shake my head. Not really. Not yet anyway. I was just curious about the different companies that come under the club, and I wanted to get to know everyone a bit, I say with a shrug. A door opens and Ink walks out. He sees me and smiles in greeting, but walks towards a door with a toilet sign on it. Ashley, I hear someone say, and my eyes start to Steele, who walks out of the same door that Ink came out of. Only Steele has no shirt on. Let's see, Denzel says enthusiastically, and Steele turns around with some reluctance and a roll of his eyes. 2 wings adorn his back at the height of his shoulder blades. Between the wings is a kind of devilish angel. It's a beautiful tattoo that you can look at for hours. Dude, that's awesome. Denzel swoons, and I giggle at his enthusiasm. Steele turns around and carefully puts on his shirt. It will probably still be sensitive. What do you think? Ink hollers at us as he walks out of the toilet with a big grin. Beautiful, Ink, I say sincerely, and it gives me a wink. He walks towards me at the counter and leans over and looks me up and down. I could also make a beautiful work of art out of you, Ash, he says flirtingly. Someone next to me growls, and I look up into the eyes of Steele, who has come to stand next to me. He looks menacingly at Ink, and I wonder why. Thanks, Ink. I know who I can turn to, if necessary, I say with a wink, and I say goodbye to everyone because my shift is about to start. I walk to my car, but also hear heavy footsteps behind me. I look back and see Steele also walking outside. I'll drive after you, all says, and I nod, having nothing against it. In the car I check if I have everything with me, and I see that I have a text message on my burner. Jay, work fast. Something happened and we have to hurry. Yes, of course. Put some more pressure behind me. I'm just about to reply with what happened when there's a tap on my window. What are you doing? I hear Steele's voice from outside, and I look at him with wide eyes. Is it? Chapter 8 almost caught. Her car door doesn't open, and I wonder what she's doing. I decide to walk up to her and open the door for her, because that's what real gentlemen do, right? I peek through the window and see her looking at a burner. Why would she have a burner? I notice that alarm bells are going off in my head, but at the same time I tell myself not to jump to conclusions. I tap on the window and ask what she's doing. She closes the phone and puts it in her bag. Her big eyes look at me in horror, and she gets out of the car. Her arms cross her chest and she looks the other way. You scared me, she mutters and walks towards the clubhouse. Why do you have a burner? I ask, my tone perhaps a bit too harsh. She stops walking for a moment and looks up, uncertainty shining in her eyes, and she is clearly searching for words. When I'm ready to share that with you, I will, she whispers, and I nod. For now I'll settle for that. We walk into the club together, and I'm surprised how busy it is. Usually the first 3 days of the week are relatively quiet in the club. Ashley, Hammer shouts, and he walks towards us. He greets me with a bear hug and slaps me on the back. I try not to show the pain he's inflicting on me by slapping my newly tatted back. But from Ashley's grin, she's all too aware of my discomfort. Ashley, Morgan is sick, so you're our savior today, says Hammer, and it puts his hands on her shoulders. Ashley nods and gives him a smile. I want to ask you to bring some drinks to my office right away. I have a meeting there with my most important man, he says with a sideways glance at me. I want to do a church meeting around 5 o'clock, so it would be nice if you could also set something up for us there in advance. Normally Morgan does this, but today I want to ask you to do this, he says, and I don't think Ashley has any idea how special this is. Hammer's office is already off limits to most people, but no one who ever enters the church room. It is seen as an almost sacred space where only club members are allowed to enter. Even prospects who have been here for a number of years are not allowed to enter. The fact that he lets her go there is a sign of trust, and I find that the reservations I had about the burner disappear. Everyone has their own problems or quirks in their lives, and this might be one of Ashley's. It's okay, Hammer. With some help from the other girls, this will be all right, she says with confidence. I've asked the girls to focus on the bar as much as possible today, if you know what I mean, he says with a grin and a wink, and Ashley laughs. In my office in half an hour, Steele. I'm going to check on Morgan first, he says sternly, and I nod. Hammer walks away, and I look at Ashley staring at something. I follow her gaze and see Asher and Wes sitting next to each other on a couch. That in itself is not surprising, because the two are almost inseparable. What is different than usual is Wes' arm that's wrapped around Asher, and the fact that they're so close together. Oh my. Steele, look, Ashley whispers enthusiastically as she grabs my bicep and squeezes it. It explains a lot, I say doubtfully, mainly because I don't really know what to do with it yet. They're so cute, she whispers again, but this time she almost jumps up and down. I roll my eyes but can help smiling. Support them, she says with a wink and a tap on my chest. I rub the place where her hand landed, hoping the feeling of her hand doesn't go away soon. I notice more and more that I want to be close to her, and that feeling makes me very nervous. I decide to put aside the feeling I'm getting for our new cook, and I make my way to my brother and West. Their heads shoot up, and Asher's eyes widen. West looks a little concerned from him to me, and I don't like that. I mumble as I stuff my hands into my front pockets and stare at them. Jack, Steele, Asher's daughters, who clearly doesn't know what to say. Is your real name Jack? West asks, clearly trying to break the ice. Ew, I mumble. Hardly anyone knows the real names of club members. Listen, Steele, I actually wanted to tell you something, Asher mutters, and I decide to sit next to him. I think I already know, and I think I kind of saw it coming, I say, putting a hand on his shoulder. But you don't have to explain it now. We can do that privately sometime, possibly with the three of us, I say, and I see gratitude in both their eyes. They both nod, and the conversation turns into daily stuff. I see Ashley come out of the kitchen with the trays full of drinks and some snacks. Her eyes catch mine, and she gives me a smile. She makes her way to Hammer's office and disappears through the door. I suddenly feel an elbow in my ribs, and my eyes dart to Asher. Ask her out, brother, he whispers not so subtly, and I give him an evil glare. Dude, why not? West asks, genuinely surprised by my reluctance. I shrug my shoulders. Actually, I don't know why I don't go for it. I know I want to find someone to spend the rest of my life with. But on the other hand, I'm just not an accessible person. Never in my life have I been so confused with myself. Women always just came to me for one night of fun, and then we never saw each other again. The only longer relationship I ever had was in high school, and I don't know if I can count it. I'm not that accessible, I mumble and glance in the direction of Hammer's office, where Ashley is still inside. Bro, you're acting like you're a terrible person, but anyone who gets to know you better knows that your heart is in the right place. You just need a little more talk and laugh, Asher says with confidence, putting a hand on my arm and smiling. I look into his eyes and see the love he has for me shining in it. We've always been close, but since we both joined this club, it's only gotten stronger. Okay, I will ask her out, I say with a smile to the two men. Thank Fouquet, West mumbles, and I raise an eyebrow and look at him questioningly. Fukinko, he hisses, and I tap my fist on the table a few times to encourage myself. Then I make my way towards Ashley. I walk to Hammer's office and hear a rumble coming from the room. I push open the door, and I see Ashley rummaging by his bookcase. Then she walks a few steps further and looks at some photos of the club taken over the years. Hammer loves photos and puts them up everywhere. It seems that she's looking for something. But the question is what? Looking for something, I mumble, and she screams and turns to me with a hand on her heart. Steele, she says breathlessly and wide-eyed, clearly startled and perhaps caught. I wanted. She stutters, and I raise one eyebrow and look at her sternly. She is clearly uncomfortable, and I wonder what she has to say. I just don't know much about this club, she says shyly, picking her nails and looking down. I was hoping to get a little more insight into what you all do through pictures or something, she continues and shrugs, still looking at the ground. Sorry, I didn't mean to sneak around. She looks at me with her big beautiful eyes, and I see that she regrets looking around Hammer's office. Good thing I came and not Hammer. He doesn't like anyone in his domain, I say, crossing my arms over my chest. She gives me a small smile and looks around awkwardly, clearly not knowing what to do next. Come on, I mumble, and I send her out of the office and take her to the kitchen. My hand is on her lower back as I gently push her forward. Once in the kitchen, I turn her to me and put a hand on her cheek. I lift her head so that she has to look at me. From now on, you just have to ask things. Okay, I say softly, and she nods. Okay, what if I take you on a date? Then you can't ask me anything, I say, and her eyes widen in surprise. Her mouth falls open and closed a number of times, and it is clear that I surprised her with this question. I get a little nervous about the silence and her lack of reaction. But then suddenly, a big smile appears on her face and I can't breathe again. Though, I can't ask you anything, and you're going to answer me about everything. An extended answer, she says teasingly, clearly aiming at my extensive vocabulary. Anything I can't answer, yes. I will do my best, I say with a wink, and her cheeks turn a beautiful pink. I bow my head and kiss her forehead. When I get up, her eyes are still closed and her cheeks are even redder. My heart, you can't do this to me, Steele, she says with a hand on her heart, and I have to chuckle. This is just the beginning, sweetheart, I whisper in her ear, and I turn and walk out of the kitchen with a grin. I walk towards Hammer's office and see Hammer, Navy and West already sitting there. I grab a cup of coffee and a muffin Ashley left here and sit next to Hammer. My men, Chief has woken up. Hammer begins, and all our heads snap in his direction, disbelief on our faces. No way, West mumbles, and a smile comes on my face. I knew that man would not leave us so quickly. The only thing that bothers me is what he told me when I went to see him this morning, says Hammer seriously. Her swears he never used drugs, but he did tell me that he caught his sister selling drugs. She doesn't dare tell who gives her the drugs. That's what he's been trying to find out for the past few weeks. All he knows is the name of the contact person who will call her when there's a new batch. Hammer continues, running a hand through his hair. His sister is blackmailed into selling drugs. He claims to have a SX tape of her and threatens to publish it if she doesn't sell his drugs. Chef felt a pinch in his leg while walking out of the bar and then became unwell. The next thing he knew, he woke up in the hospital. He is convinced that he was too close to the drug dealer and that they gave him drugs in the bar. Fouquet, this is madness, I say in surprise. I know that nowadays it happens more often that people are secretly administered drugs through a needle in busy places. It's a sick thought that someone would just decide to feed innocent people such nasty stuff without their consent. The man's name is Jay. That's all we know. I want us to investigate who this man is. I want to expose him at all costs. No one will touch one of our brothers, growls Hammer, and everyone nods in agreement. Let the party begin. Chapter 9, Tension. I did it. Holy shit, I did it. Hammer has given me the perfect opportunity to place wiretaps in his office and perhaps even in the church room. After I put the coffee and some goodies on trays, I walk with full hands to Hammer's office. On the way, my eyes find Steele's, and my heart immediately starts to beat faster. Our encounter this morning still bothers me a bit. I think he figured out I was bluffing about the burner. I just hope he ignores it, and I need to find a good excuse in case he asks about it again. I also want clarity from Jack about his message. He tells me that I have to work faster, but not why. If there is danger somewhere or if there are twists and turns in the case, then I should know. I have entered hostile territory these past days and the coming days. Once in Hammer's office, I quickly put everything down and look around for a good place for the eavesdropping device. I look in the bookcase and see that the bottom bookshelf is quite dusty, a sign that it is not used much. I pull two books forward and stick the device to the back of the cupboard. Then I carefully slide the books back. From a distance, I try to see if I can spot the device and see that that is not the case. Satisfied with the first big step, I take a big sigh and try to calm my heart. That doesn't last long because soon after Steele walks in. This man has no sense of timing and gives me another heart attack. The conversation is awkward and I try to seem as innocent as possible and that it's mostly my curiosity. He pushes me back towards the kitchen and his hand on my back causes a fire in my body. I can no longer think normally with this man around me. That fire makes me say yes to a date with him, which is definitely not a good idea given my situation. But when he gives me a kiss on my forehead, I melt from the sweet gesture and he is on the right track to my heart. When he's gone, I decide to make a carrot cake for when the men have church. One of the devil's girls is behind the bar and calls me when I'm needed there. When the cake is in the oven, I decide I deserve a little break, and I walk out of the clubhouse to get some fresh air. I only spot Denzel outside, and I tell him I'm going for a short walk to get some fresh air. I walk towards the park next to the clubhouse. It is somewhat run down, and it is clear that not many people come here. I grab my burner and call Jack. It takes a while, but eventually he answers. Why are you calling in the middle of the day? He grumbles through the phone, and I roll my eyes. Serious. What happened? I ask immediately. I hear a deep sigh and some rustling. In the background, I hear beeps and buzzes, and it sounds like he's in a hospital. Are you in a hospital? I ask, and it makes an approving sound. Yes. I am questioning someone who was found this week and who had taken an overdose, he says, and it is clear that he has moved somewhere quieter. The man we're questioning is one of the MC. He has overdosed and is suspected of dealing drugs. The club is heavily involved in the drug scene here, and it may well be our key to the success of this case, he mutters, and I immediately know he is talking about Chef. The member here heard he was found. They have meetings today, and I think they are about this man. I've placed a listening device in the president's office, and I think I'll get a chance to do that at church today as well, I say, and he makes another sound of approval. Good job, Vanessa. We'll talk again this week. I'm going to the suspect again, he says, and immediately hangs up. Okay. Bye, I mutter sarcastically, and I make my way back to the club. I walk into the kitchen, and the smell of the carrot cake hits my nose. This is one of my favorite cakes, and I can't wait to have a bite myself. I help behind the bar and see that Steel, Hammer, and Ink are not in the room. There is a good chance that the men are now in the office with their meeting. I can't listen to what they said tonight when I am at home, since I have a laptop at home to which the eavesdropping equipment is connected. The men enter the living room around 2:00 and their faces are tense. It is clear that it was a tough meeting. They all sit at the bar and I pour a whiskey for all three. Not because they asked, but because I think they need it. Thanks, Ash, Hammer says with a grateful smile and immediately empties the entire glass down his throat. I ask, half giggling, and it nods. I refill it and immediately refill Ink and Steel's. They mumble something in thanks and I continue cleaning the bar. Is it possible to set up church, Ashley? Hammer asks as he stands up and I nod. Thanks, he says with a wink, and he walks back to his office. Ink also stands up and says that it can't be found in the tattoo shop. How are you? I ask Steel as I lean against the bar. He looks at me for a moment before staring at his whiskey again, taking a moment to answer and clearly searching for words. Chef's sister doesn't dare talk to us about who gave her the drugs. All she says is that he has a lot of influence in the city and can't just be taken down, he says with a sigh, and I frown. Someone with a lot of influence. That could be so many people, and even the MC could be included. That doesn't make it any easier. There are a lot of people with a lot of influence in town, I mumble, and it grunts irritated. We suspect someone in the police. Or maybe people around the mayor, he says, and my heart is racing. Shit. The police. I whisper. I actually didn't mean to say those words out loud, but they just pop right out of my mouth. The fucking police here are all corrupt. Steel growls angrily, and I feel the blood drain from my head and panic set in. This is not what I expected to hear from his mouth. This is trouble. I wouldn't know, I whisper, and he looks at me. How so? Everyone knows that the police are shady here. Maybe not everyone, but there are definitely some idiots who have a little too much control, he says, and besides the fact that my head is going in all directions, I also realize that this is the longest conversation I've ever had with him. I've only lived here for 1 year, so I'm not that familiar here, yet I say with a shrug, hoping to appear as nonchalant as possible. Steel nods and looks at me. His eyes roam over my body, and it is clear that he is looking at me extensively. I feel some color come into my cheeks again, and I'm 100% sure that my white face is now tomato red. I clear my throat and give him a weak smile, then turn and walk towards the toilets to collect myself. The thing Steel just said caused a lot of confusion in my head. I always have blind faith in my colleagues, and like to assume the good in someone. The idea that Meg, Brady, or Jack might be doing wrong things makes me sick. I trust these people blindly, and that should also be the case with our work. When I face a dangerous situation, I trust them to look out for me just as I do for them. I step into the women's toilet and lean on the sink with both hands. Then I take a few deep breaths to calm my body again. But luck is not exactly on my side when the door opens and then closes again. I look to the side and see Steele's large figure standing at the door, taking a few strides behind me and leaning his hands against the sink next to mine. I am immersed in his masculine scent and warmth, and my body is immediately on again. Not from uncomfortable tension, but from delicious sexual tension. A hand pulls the hair from my neck and puts it over my shoulder on one side. His hand comes next to mine again, and he looks at me in the mirror. You're in my head all day, he mutters, and I close my eyes. I feel his head on my neck, and his nose caresses gently from my shoulder to my ear and back again. Delicious, he whispers, and I feel his lips in the corner of my neck and my shoulder, and I breathe a deep sigh. Steal, I whisper, and it growls deep in his chest. A hand goes around my waist and it pushes me close to him. I feel everything, and therefore his excitement. Never has a woman brought out so many feelings in me, he whispers in my ear, after which he gently bites my earlobe. Steal, I moan and softly, while I forget everything around me and immerse myself in a steel shower. He grunts deeply again and turns me around and pushes me against the sink. One hand goes to my butt and the other it puts on my cheek. He looks into my eyes and seems a little hesitant, or he seems to be looking for something in my face. Maybe permission or doubt. I decide for him and stand on tiptoe, wrap my arms around his neck and pull his head down. Our mouths clash and our first kiss is pure excitement and hard passion. When I push my tongue into his mouth, he seems to lose his restraint and lifts me up so I can wrap my legs around his waist. Next to me I hear the door slam open and someone gasp loudly. I pull away from Steele and look into Becky's eyes. "Os, I'll be back," she mutters with a big grin on her face as she leaves again. I giggle and look into Steele's eyes again. And to be honest, I'm suddenly scared of what I see in his eyes. Chapter 10. Distance. Love. Adoration. Lust. We are still in the same position, and I don't think I want to change that. I lean my head forward and lay against his chest. I hear his heartbeat and enjoy the reassuring sound. His hands slide over my back and legs, and he puts his head on my neck. We sit together for a few minutes. The silence and the fact that I am no longer overrun with lust makes my brain work again, and I think about my current situation. I can't fall for this man. I can't start a relationship with someone I might betray. I can't date someone who doesn't trust the police when I'm a police officer myself. Which it doesn't know, of course, but still. I jerk to my feet and push him back a bit, then jump off the sink and distance myself from him. I gotta go. I stammer and almost run out of the toilet, my head down so I don't have to look at anyone. Shit. Tears come to my eyes and I try to blink them away. I'm standing in the kitchen and trying to collect myself for the umpteenth time. This can't be. This just can't be. For the first time in such a long time, I find someone I'm genuinely interested in and I'm in this shitty situation. And the idea that I might have to hurt him in the foreseeable future hurts my heart. I think it's wise if I don't go on a date with him, and I should distance myself from him a bit. I'm here on a mission, and I can't afford to be distracted by someone who may be on the wrong side of the law. I turn on the coffee machine and place the jug underneath so that it can be filled when the water is hot. Then I cut the cake into pieces and put it on a tray together with some plates and forks. I put everything on the serving cart and see if I have everything. It only has coffee on it, so I decide to add some cans of soda for those who don't feel like drinking coffee. I look around and walk to my bag, where I take out the second eavesdropping device and put it in my pocket. Then I walk into the church room with all my stuff and look around me. The room is bigger than I expected. In the middle are the large elongated tables with chairs around them. At the head end is a chair with president, which is clearly intended for Hammer. There are some small bookcases against the walls, and there are some posters and old photos on the walls. The space is very light and looks calm. I expected a somewhat harder space with dark colors. I put everything down on the middle of the table so the men can help themselves with some cake and a drink. I don't know if it should be like this, but I'm guessing it is. I walk towards a sideboard behind Hammer's chair and decide to place the device there. There is a vase with fake flowers on it. I look in the vase and see that there is no water in it. I understand that's not necessary with fake flowers, but you never know, and I don't want the device to get wet. I glue it down on the inside a little deeper so that it is not easily spotted. Happy that it worked out, I make my way back to the kitchen where I start cleaning. I take over Becky at the bar and see her leave with Denzel for one of the rooms, but not before she winks at me. My cheeks turn red because I know very well that I'm not rid of her yet and that she's definitely going to question me about the situation she found me in. I look around and don't see Steele anywhere. He didn't come after me after what happened, and I'm secretly grateful to him for that. Hammer walks into the club and calls everyone to church. There aren't that many this time, and I wonder how it's decided which members can or can't be there. Or maybe some are just working and can't be there. I can't understand that the club is extra work for most people. I start cooking dinner. Today pasta is on the menu. I decided to go for the standard spaghetti bolognese and a gnocchi with cheese sauce, one of my favorite dishes. "Ashley," says a familiar voice, and I turn to see Morgan walking into the kitchen with a big smile. "You're back. How are you feeling?" I ask enthusiastically while I drain the spaghetti over the sink. "A lot better. I just had a good virus. But I'm ready to eat a lot again," she says, laughing, and I laugh with her. She walks over to me and peeks into all the pans. She whistles in an admirable tone and looks at me happily. "That looks fantastic again, girlfriend," she says as she puts a spoon in the cheese sauce and tastes it. Delicious, she moans, and I laugh at her enthusiasm. "Enjoy it. This will give you some strength back in your body," I say with a wink, and she nods eagerly. "Men love pasta. They will be very happy with you tonight," she says as she takes plates from the cupboard and puts them on the trolley. We work like a well-oiled machine and prepare the buffet in no time. Becky is back and takes care of the bar. "Oh wow, that smells good. I could eat a horse," Denzel calls as he walks past the buffet, and Morgan pushes him away towards the bar. "Wait until the members are ready," she warns semi-sternly, and she is rewarded by a panty-dropping smile from Denzel. "Yes, boss," he salutes, and I shake my head at his carefree attitude. I can always appreciate that. Church's door opens and Navy storms out with West in tow. Navy throws his nose in the air and takes a deep sniff. "Food by Ashley. Fouquet, yes," he shouts with a feast in the air, and he walks towards the buffet. West shakes his head and looks at me apologetically. I shake my head laughing and continue doing the dishes. I secretly raise my eyes and immediately clash with Steves, who walks past towards the buffet. He gives me a small smile and I melt on the spot. The men pack their food and sit down in the booths. Morgan and I bring beer and soft drinks, and the atmosphere is pleasant. Morgan and I grab a plate, and she waves me over to the table where Hammer, Ink, and Steel are eating. I hesitate for a moment, but I see that Steel has already spotted me and he beckons me in his direction. He moves a little to the side so that there is room for me. I sigh because now it would be very strange if I walk in the other direction. I plop down next to him and start eating. "This is divine," Ink says with a full mouth, and I give him a grateful smile. Hammer and Steel grunt in agreement, and Morgan winks at me. The plates are soon empty and we fall into easy conversations. It's County and I feel very much in my place. Suddenly I feel a big hand on my thigh and I freeze in place. The hand gently rubs back and forth and I feel my body react to the gesture. I feel my cheeks getting warm and I don't know what to do. In reaction, I push his hand off my leg, but that has no long-lasting effect. In no time, he swings his arm over the back of the sofa in my direction. His hand touches my shoulder and sends goosebumps all over my body. I move closer to him in response, hoping not to feel his fingers, but it does immerse me in his luscious masculine scent. "Ew, we'll go and start clearing up," I mumble, and I dart towards the kitchen to grab a tray. I walk past the tables and catch Steele's eye. He gives me a heated look and a wink, and I blush hard. The evening goes by quietly and I'm happy when I can go home around 9 o'clock. I walk towards my car but hear someone calling my name. I sigh as I see Steele come out of the club and walk towards me. "When should we go on a date?" he asks softly when he stands in front of me, and I look at everything but his eyes. "I'll look tonight which night I can go out, okay?" I mumble, and I still make the mistake of looking into his eyes. His eyes are friendly, but there is also some confusion in his gray viewers. "Did I do something?" he begins, and I shake my head. "No, just a long day. I still have to get used to it, so my head is full," I say, while making an explosive movement near my head, and it chuckles. "Okay, sleep tight," he mutters and leans down and kisses my cheek. "Yeah," is all I can whisper as he turns and walks back inside. I stare at his receding figure for a while, then turn and get into the car. The evening isn't actually over for me yet because I'm very curious if the eavesdropping equipment has worked properly and if anything interesting has been said tonight. I drive the way home and sit behind my laptop at home. Chapter 11 Revelations. He threatened him. The fook had the guts to say they're his sister. If he started talking about what he knows, I hear Hammer's voice scrolling through my headphones. I'm currently listening to the bud in Hammer's office. They apparently stopped by Chef earlier today to talk to him. "Did he introduce himself?" grumbles Steele. "Ew, just that he was from the police," Hammer replies, and my heart is in my throat. "Fucking police. I knew it was them. For king's sake, Fookers still growls and I can only listen as my heart bounces out of my chest. What is this? This cannot be true. We know from Chef's sister that his name starts with a J. So now it's a priority to find out which names start with a J or have a last name with a J. Unfortunately, the J can also be an alias. But it's a good lead, says Hammer, and there are murmurs of agreement. Heck, I want you to check everyone in the police. Yen, woman, high or low rank, I don't care. I want a file of all these people on my desk. Steel, I want you to help him with that. It's a big task, and it will take some time. Tomorrow Ink and I will go to Chef again. He can probably go home, and I want to take him here. If he wants that too, I hear Hammer say confidently, and I feel myself getting sick. It remains silent after this. The only thing you hear is the sliding of chairs and the slamming of the door. Obviously they all walked out of the office. I know they joined me at the bar afterwards. I see my burner vibrate on the table next to me and flip it open. There's a message from Jack. Jay, do you have audio recordings? V, yes. Listening to them now. Jay, stop that and bring them here. Let us do it. V, I have time to do it now. Jay, it's an order. Q, I'm bringing them in for work tomorrow. J, no. Yeah. V, OMW. Is this man serious? I think I have just as much right to listen to these things as he does, since I'm undercover. Frustrated, I close my laptop and watch Jack's answer. J, quick. I'm at my office. I sigh out loud and put the stuff in a backpack. My hands suddenly stop what they're doing and I stare at my phone. Ayo. Ayo. No, this is a coincidence. Right. J as in, Jack. I sink into the chair and put my head in my hands. I've heard so much these days that I question everything right now. The MC suspecting the police, Jack holding things back and thinking I don't notice. The name with the J. Jack. Ayo, this is not possible. There are more people at the station with a J. Right. I want answers. And now. I grab my bag, put on a coat and jet off to the police station. It's quiet as it's late in the evening. There's no one behind the desk at the moment, so I quickly walk towards Jack's office. At the last moment I stop. Doubt strikes again. I turn around and walk to my desk and unfold my laptop. I fish a USB stick from my desk drawer and plug it into the laptop. Then I copy all recorded data to the stick and then hide it in my bra. I look around and see no one there. I close my laptop and make my way to Jack's office. His door's closed, so I knock 3 times on the door. After a few seconds, the door opens and Jack is standing before me in all his glory. He steps aside so I can come in. At the window, I see Brady, who turns around and smiles at me. What is he doing here? Wasn't he busy with another case? You want to answer, Jack? You leave me too much in the dark, I say right away, and I see the men throw a look at each other. We've seen each other recently, Vanessa, Jack mutters as he takes a seat behind his desk. I roll my eyes and take a seat in one of the chairs in the room. I put my laptop on my lap because I don't plan to give it away just yet. What did Chef say to you? I ask seriously and Jack frowns. And not much. We had a good talk, he says with his arms folded. So unclear again, Jack. I'm in the middle of this case, in the lion's den, and you just expect me to come and give information and keep quiet. Do you have any idea how dangerous it is to be so ignorant in a place where it could be very dangerous? I rage and Jack sighs deeply. Don't forget your place, Vanessa, he says sternly, and I roll my eyes, deeply annoyed by his behavior. We are busy collecting information, and Chef is a good lead. He is willing to betray the club so that he and his sister don't have to go to jail for dealing drugs, says Jack, and my eyes widen in surprise. That's not what I heard, Jack. I mumble and look at Brady, who hasn't said anything yet and is just following our conversation. According to them, Chef is being threatened by someone from the police. They're investigating us, Jack. It won't be long before they find a picture of my profile, and they'll know exactly what I'm doing there. They talk about a name with the J all the time. I rage again and I see surprise in Jack's eyes. It's clear that this is new information for him. I'll make sure they can't find you, he mutters as he grabs his cell phone and starts texting someone. And the name J? I ask carefully and his eyes dart to me. What do you want to say, Agent Hayes? He asks darkly, and I know I shouldn't go too far when he calls me by my title. You know very well what I want to know, Jack, I say, emphasizing his name, forgetting not to go too far with him. You know I would never do such a thing. We will investigate this new information. Brady and I are now going to listen to the recordings. You can go home again. He waves me away nonchalantly, and again, he knows how to surprise me. My faith in him is getting less and less, and I notice that my trust in him has also decreased. He is so vague in all his answers, and is so nonchalant in everything he says, like it's not all that important. They were the ones who said this case was so important, so why is it being treated so calmly now? He would also like to hear what they all say, I say resolutely, but Jack immediately shakes his head. Oh, we'll let you know if anything important comes out. Have a nice evening, Officer Hayes, he says with authority, holding out his hand, waiting for my laptop. I take a deep breath and hand the laptop to him, knowing I have a copy on the USB stick. I slowly drive back home, my stomach in knots and my head a mess. On the one hand, I want to have complete confidence in my commissioner and colleagues, but on the one hand, they make it so difficult for me. The things I've been told at the club and the things I've heard from Hammer's office sound so convincing that I doubt everything. My head tells me to believe Jack and the police, since I've been part of this unit for several months now. But my heart tells me to run to the club and tell everything to Hammer and Steele. But the idea of betraying their trust hurts my heart. I like it so much there after such a short time that I really feel at home already. I expected it to be difficult, also given the short preparation time I had. But I didn't expect these people to conquer a place in my heart so quickly. I don't know what was said in church right now as I didn't have time to listen to everything. But I'm going to get up early tomorrow morning to listen to the rest. My shift starts just before lunch and ends after dinner. Then I have all evening to listen to what was said that day. Right now I don't know who I want the bad guys to be. The MC or the police. Chapter 12 Therapy. I stumble into the clubhouse, my hair in a bun on my head and bags under my eyes, probably down to my knees. The first part of the night, I listened to what they discussed with church. The only new thing that has been said is that Chef also wants to take his sister with him when he stays at the club in the near future. Then I went to bed, but sleep didn't come. I tossed and turned all night, trying to clear my head of all the information I've received the past few days. "Woman, you look rough," says someone next to me, and an arm is put around me. I look to the side and see Navy standing next to me with a crooked smile and mischievous eyes. "You know you have to sleep at night, right?" He chuckles as he leads me to the bar and puts me down in a chair. "Navy, I start, but I'm silenced. And first coffee, then work," he says sternly as he walks behind the bar and pours me a cup of coffee. Morgan comes out of the kitchen and looks surprised at Navy, who is behind the bar. He is still ignorant of her presence and talks my ears off. I realize I haven't seen Morgan much lately. She was there for the first few days, but then she's been quite absent. Hammer said she's been sick, and to be honest, she still looks pretty tired. Maybe we should start a club for tired women together. "Navy, what are you doing behind the bar? Looking for a new job?" Morgan asks sternly, crossing her arms. Navy stiffens at first and looks at me with wide eyes. I grin at him and move my eyebrows up and down. He puts on a charming smile and turns around and gives Morgan a hug. Morgan looks at me over his shoulder in surprise, and I can't help but smile. "Yo, lady boss, I made sure our new cook had enough oil in her body to make good food for us," he says charmingly while he still has an arm around Morgan. "And Navy, get your hands off my wife." Hammer thunders through the room, and I laugh at the speed Navy takes a step away from Morgan. Morgan gives me a wink and walks towards Hammer. She almost jumps into his arms, and they start an extensive make-out session. "I'll bring her right back," Hammer says, throwing Morgan over his shoulder and walking away. "Well, this is a nice soap in the morning," I mumble while drinking my cup of coffee. "Where's West?" I ask, looking at Navy over my cup of coffee. Helping Steele out at the workshop, I think," he says, pouring himself a cup of coffee as well. I tilt my head towards him and he refills mine too. He walks around the bar and sits next to me. "How are you and him doing?" I ask carefully, hoping I don't offend or frighten him with my question. He looks at me and I see a lot of emotions in his eyes. It is clear that West releases a lot in him. "It's complicated," he mutters, and it focuses on the cup in his hand. There's a moment of silence between us, but it's not uncomfortable. I knew quite early in my life that I wasn't into women. He begins and I turn to him, so I can't give him my full attention. I look around and see that there is no one else in the club. Or at least not in the main room. Me brother was the first one I told. Somehow I knew he wouldn't judge me. But I only told him a few weeks ago. Mainly because I got closer to West, he says calmly. He thinks carefully about his words, and is clearly looking for what it does and does not want to tell me. I never thought West was into men. I knew it could be someone I could really fall in love with, but respected that it would never happen because I thought it was straight. A few weeks ago, I confessed to him that I have had feelings for him for a long time, and before I knew it, he kissed me. He continues, his eyes staring at the now cold coffee in his hands. Okay. I got so excited that I immediately deepened the kiss. A suppressed desire shot up. Only my action brought him out of his haze, and he ran out of the club. We had some good conversations afterwards. He said he wants to find out what he is before Navy stops talking, and I know where he wants to go. Before he gives you hope for more, I say softly, and he nods. He noticed that it is increasingly showing that he likes me. Small touches and sitting close to me. Only I'm a bit reserved because I don't want to scare him off. So I told him I'll keep my distance until he takes the initiative himself. He says, and I give him a smile. That's very brave, Navy. I can't imagine it's hard to see someone struggling like that when you want to be close to him. I put a hand on his arm and he nods again. A grateful look in his eyes. Thanks, Ashley. I know I'm into guys. Otherwise I would have competed with my big brother, he says with a wink, and I feel my cheeks glow red. I'm not blind. My brother may be big and intimidating, but he's quite shy. But it's almost scary how often he's staring at you. When you're both in the same room, he laughs and I giggle. I bump my shoulder against his because I don't know what to say. I have to go to work. I mumble and Navy laughs. You're having a little trouble starting up today. I see, he says laughing as he stands up and puts an arm around my shoulders. Good luck, darling. Thanks for the chat. He kisses my cheek and walks out taking a pack of cigarettes from his pocket. I put my head in my hands and mow in. It's been a long time since I've been this tired. It's awful. Suddenly there are two hands on both sides of me against the bar. Behind me I feel a warmth and I smell that wonderful masculine scent again. A head comes into my neck and I automatically lean back against a strong chest. I missed you, he whispers in my ear, and a big shiver goes through my body. Oh really? I say breathlessly, and he chuckles softly. The vibration of his chuckle travels from his chest through my body and I mow in softly. Okay. Will you stop making those sounds? He mumbles into my neck and I giggle. He growls deep in his chest and it sounds almost animal-like. He turns my bar stool and our eyes clash as we look at each other. A small grin is on his lips and it's a beautiful face. I follow the line of his lips with my index finger, which form even more of a smile. Would you like dinner together tonight? Falls from my lips before I can stop and think it over. He grabs my index finger with his teeth and bites gently. Then gently sucks my finger to ease any pain. My eyes close and I find myself getting excited. My body is always on edge when he's around. Shall I cook for you at my house? He says when he has released my finger and I can only nod as I look at him again. Can I have your phone? He mumbles and I nod again, his mouth breaking into a smile at my lack of response. I take my phone out of my pocket, unlock it and hand it to Steele. He types something into his phone, and a moment later, I hear his mobile ringing. He grins again and hands my mobile back to me. Now, you have my number and I have yours. I text you my address. Will you be there around 6? He says and I nod again while answering his smile with mine. He dips his head down and gives me a soft kiss in the mouth. It's very gentle and very different from when in the toilet. He gets up and winks at me. His head tilts to the side and I follow his gaze. Hammer and Morgan are standing a few feet away from us with their hands together, both with big grins on their faces, and it's clear they've seen our interaction. Steele, my man. Finally you get some action, Hammer jokes and I snort loudly. Okay, you dude, Steele mutters as he casts a stern look at me, his eyes promising I'm in trouble. I give him my most innocent eyes and blink my eyelashes. He rolls his eyes, but I spot another small smile. It looks like the big grumpy giant likes my presence because I've never seen him grin so much. Hammer and Steele walk towards Hammer's office and I make my way to the kitchen to prepare lunch. Morgan walks up behind me and helps me make several sandwiches I've been thinking of making. Oh, she says long-winded and I giggle. It's clear she wants to question me about Steele. Yes, I say with one eyebrow raised and she rolls her eyes. I already had the idea that the man was attracted to you. But what I just saw almost made me pull Hammer back into our room for a third round, she says laughing, and I join her. It's still new, I mumble, and she nods. But do you like him too? She asks, and I blush. Yes, I think so. We'll see how it goes, I mumble as I pile up a BLT sandwich. Chef is coming here today, Morgan says, and my eyes start to hurt in shock. Calm down. You haven't lost your job. But he currently needs the protection of the club, so I will stay here with his sister for the time being, she says as she walks to the coffee machine and puts a large jug under it. Are they in danger? I ask carefully. I notice that I find it difficult because I don't know how much I am actually allowed to know. Steel and Navy told me some things, but I don't know if I was allowed to know all of them. Furthermore, my knowledge mainly comes from the eavesdropping devices and check. I have to remember what I heard from whom so that I don't get myself into trouble. Morgan looks at me for a moment, observing, thinking, and doubtful. For a moment, I get the feeling that she doesn't trust me, or that she suspects something isn't right. I am thinking about things I may have said wrong, or am I perhaps acting too conspicuously? Yeah, they're being threatened by someone with a lot of influence, so there's not much they can do about it at the moment. Hammer and the other members are busy with it. They hope Chef will dare to say who it is today, she says softly, and I breathe a deep sigh. Apparently everything is still good between us and she trusts me. Oh, that must be a big breakthrough, if he tells that, I say, and she nods. It's a lot of stress for Hammer, so I hope it's over soon. The stuff with Chef, and then also with Lex, she says thoughtfully, and I frown. Lex, duh, did she mean Leshy, their daughter? She clearly sees the confusion on my face as she quickly clarifies herself. Lushy, our daughter, she has some problems at school. That's why I was absent for the past few days, she explained. Oh, I'm sorry. Is she okay? I ask, and she hums a bit thoughtfully. Yes, but she is entwined in a love triangle, and that has resulted in a big fight between the men. After that, she was a bit shocked and didn't really know what to do. I give her a sympathetic smile and put a hand on her shoulder. Being a teenager is not easy, but you are a dedicated mother from what I have seen so far. So as long as she has your support, it will be fine, I say sympathetically, and she gives me a hug. Thanks, Ashley. You're great to talk to, she says as we finish lunch together. Looks like I've become a therapist to the club today. Maybe I should ask Emma for a raise. Chapter 13, her story. I'm behind the wheel in the club's SUV. In front of us are Hammer and Navy on their bikes, and behind us are Denzel and Peter, one of the newest club members, but a very experienced man when it comes to mechs. In the car are Chef and his sister Laura. They will stay with us for the coming time because they are safer with us than in their home. We arrive at the clubhouse, and I see Morgan and Ashley waiting for us outside. My heart races at the sight of Ashley, and I really want to pick her up and take her to my house right now. But unfortunately, it has to wait a while because first we have to talk to Chef and his sister. Hack has also found a number of things he wants to tell us, so it will be a long time in church. We get out, and Morgan goes straight to Hammer to hug him. He then turns around and says we're going straight to church. Chef and his sister walk in along with Denzel, Peter, and Navy. I stand with Hammer, Morgan, and Ashley, and my hand finds its way to Ashley's lower back and gently rubs circles there. I don't want to be disturbed for the next hour by nothing or no one. I'm going to get everything out of this conversation and therefore don't want to hear any complications from the outside. I'm tired of this situation, so I really hope Chef throws everything out. Hammer is stern and clear, but I also see fatigue on his face. He's been so preoccupied with this past few days that he probably hasn't had much sleep. It is generally very quiet at our club, but this weighs heavily on our heads because Chef is a valued member with us. Chef is unclear in his information to us because of his sister, but probably now that she has the protection of the club, they both dare to say more. Goodbye, baby, Hammer mumbles after he kisses her on the head and walks into the club. I squeeze Ashley's hip gently and give her a wink and then follow Hammer towards church. I look back and see Ashley staring at me. Her eyes are worried and anxious. I think that even though she has only been with us for a short time, it is also clear to her that this is serious business. We take our regular seats. Chef has put his sister next to him, and the poor girl looks like she's about to throw up. She may be 26 years old, but at the moment, she looks like a girl of less than 20. Big eyes looking at us all tense. Okay, Hammer begins as it opens church, looking everyone in the eye to make it clear he's serious. Hammer explains that Chef and Laura will be staying with us for the foreseeable future, and that someone should always be with Laura for protection. Chef, Laura, I hope you can tell us more about what happened, Hammer says in an authoritative tone. In full presidential mode, Chef and Laura look at each other. It is clear that Chef is waiting for Laura's approval. She closes her eyes and takes a deep breath, then nods and starts talking. 2 years ago, I was mentally in a messed up place, and the people I interacted with didn't have my best interests at heart. I was at a party and there I met. She wanders off and looks up. It is clear that she finds it difficult to talk about it. That's where I met Jimmy. He was 2 years older than me and we got along really well that night. We danced a bit and had some drinks. At the end of the evening, he asked if I wanted to go on a date with him. I accepted, and 2 days later, we went out together for the first time. In the following weeks, we went on dates regularly, and I quickly developed feelings for him. He seemed like a really nice man. After 3 months, he asked if I could bring a package to a friend of his for him. He was stuck at work, but he wanted the package as soon as possible. The location was a very shady neighborhood, and I did not feel comfortable at all. The man who took the package was clearly high on something and tried to assault me. At that moment, a police car drives by and the man in the car asks if everything is okay. The junkie runs away and the police didn't go after him. The policeman in the car turned out to be Jimmy's dad. He's some big guy in the police force. When I came home, Jimmy was sitting on the couch with friends. He got very angry when he heard that the police had found me. When I told him it was his father, he immediately calmed down and apologized for his behavior. In the weeks that followed, he regularly asked if I wanted to drop off packages for him, and as a reward, we often did fun things together. I know it's naive to just do it all, but I trusted him completely and he was busy with work, so I didn't think much of it, she says guiltily. Chef puts a hand on her arm and squeezes comforting. Thanks, Laura. We're glad you shared this with us, Hammer says in a voice I've only heard him use with his daughters. A quiet father voice. When I asked what was in the packages, he waved it off. He said it was something for his work. It went on for several months until I was stopped by the police. She closes her eyes and I see a tear roll down her cheeks. I get up and pour her a glass of water. I put it in front of her and get a grateful smile from Chef. Laura says thank you softly and takes a few sips. The police officers found the package on my front seat suspicious and went to investigate it. From the box it took out packages that were supposed to contain cereal. Opened one package and took out a bag of white powder. I was handcuffed and taken to the police station. I spent a whole night in jail, and all I was told was that there were drugs in the package. I felt so betrayed, so humiliated. Never in my life have I had anything to do with drugs, and now I was suddenly in the thick of it. I wasn't allowed to call anyone, so I couldn't reach Chef. Either it's clear she wanted to use his real name, but that's very unusual here in the club. In the morning, a nice policewoman came to question me, and when I told her that I was sent out by my boyfriend, she seemed to believe me. She left, and a few minutes later, Jimmy's dad came into the cell and told me I was free and all charges were dropped. They believed in my innocence. I asked if they knew Jimmy was involved in this, but he brushed it off. Apparently it wasn't important, she says with a shrug. If you ask me, father and son are anything but innocent, growls Ink, and I hear murmurs of agreement. Silence. Hammer growls, signaling to Laura to continue. Jimmy was furious when he picked me up at the station. He didn't do anything while we were there, but on the way to his house, I felt his rage. When we got home, then, she swallows away a lump in her throat that has come from the memory. He hit me, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 20 times. The street value of the drugs that was intercepted was $20,000. Hitting me 20 times was the least I deserved. In the month since then, he has forced me to make trips for him several times to pay him back for the money he lost. It was 3 months later that it impacted my life so much that I went to Chef for help. She looks aside guiltily and insecurely. Chef has a hard look in his eyes, but it softens when he looks at her. They clearly have a close bond. Despite him being almost 10 years older, they are as close as can be. Son, you call Ashley for some snacks and a drink. We've been here a bit longer than I thought, Hammer whispers to me, and I nod. I get up and walk into the corner of the room. Everyone is muttering and Chef and Laura are deep in conversation. I call the number that called me last. Until now I hadn't had time to save her number in my phone. Hello. I hear Ashley answer questioningly on the other end of the line. "Hi baby," I say softly, and I glance towards Hammer, who apparently heard. He and Ink are grinning together at me. "Steele?" she asks, and I have to chuckle. "Yes. Who else?" I ask with humor, and I hear her laugh. "I don't know, but I saw Jackson on my screen and didn't know who it was," she says, and I kick myself for not telling her. "Yeah, sorry. I wanted to officially introduce myself. But at least now you know my real name," I mumble, embarrassed, and I hear Hammer and Ink laughing in the background. I give them the middle finger and focus on the conversation. "Neatsa to meet you, Jackson. A very SI name, by the way," she whispers seductively into the phone, and I moan softly at the tone of her voice. She sounds so tempting. "Stop. Not now," I mumble, and I hear her laughing on the other side. "Little Minx, you want to ask if you can bring us some drinks and treats as soon as possible," I asked, and I hear her make an approving sound. "As soon as possible, huh? What do I get for it?" she asks defiantly, and I take a deep sigh to calm myself down. Preferably, I want to throw her over my shoulders and run home. "Fuki Minx. Hurry up," I mumble and hang up. I swear I can't hear her laughing through the church doors. With a grin on my face, I walk towards my chair and sit down again. Hammer slaps me on my shoulders. "It's nice to see a smile on your steely face, my friend," he says jovially, and I roll my eyes. "Yeah, thanks," I mutter as I and Hammer and Ink chuckle again. I catch the eye of Asher, who is sitting next to West a few seats away, and he winks at me. "People need to get off my back. Like yesterday." Chapter 14. Storm is coming. Is it? This is bad. This is very, very, very bad. I recognize her from a few months ago when I questioned her in jail. I had only just started working there at the time, and I remember being very upset that Jack took over rather unreasonably and let her go just like that. Of course, I could see that she was in the middle of something she didn't really want to be in, but that wasn't a reason to just let her go. Luckily, she didn't look our way when she got out of the car. I turned quickly but subtly so she could only see my backside. And now Steele calls me, or Jackson. He wants me to bring them some food and drinks, but if I go in there is a very good chance that she will recognize me. And I can guarantee that she won't rat me out. I have to come up with a plan. And fast. Pronto. Right fucking now. Morgan is cleaning the tables, and there are some prospects in the room. No one is really paying attention to me, so I can't think for a second of what I should do. I put my hand to my forehead and think deeply. I curse Jack for all the confusion he has caused. I need to get out of here. And the only way I can think of right now is if I pretend I've gotten sick. I bring out my inner Anna Hathaway and pretend to feel nauseous, then sprint across the room and to the bathroom. I hear someone shout something, but I ignore them. I run into a toilet and close the door behind me. I wait a moment, but don't hear anything. I pinch my cheeks and toss my hair so that it looks messy. As soon as I hear the door open and Morgan call my name, I flush the toilet and come out of the stable. "Are you okay, sweetie?" she asks, concerned, and I immediately feel guilty that I have to prank her like that. "Yes. Oh, not really. I think I got a virus or something. My food suddenly came up," I mumble, after which I rinse my mouth with water and wash my hands. "Oh no, that's bad." She puts a hand on my shoulder and looks at me sympathetically. "Go home, and don't come back until you're better," she says with a wink, and I give her a grateful smile. I walk to the kitchen and grab my bag and jacket. Morgan follows me and starts cleaning the counter. "Oh, I completely forgot. Steele asked if I wanted to bring some snacks and drinks to church," I say, and she nods as she walks to the coffee machine. "I'll do it. Don't you worry," she says reassuringly, and I quickly walk out of the clubhouse. I nod to the two prospects outside smoking by their bikes. I get in my car and drive towards my house. While driving, I try to call Jack, but he doesn't answer. What's the point of having an emergency phone if you can't use it? My patience is really running out, and I decide to drive to the station. Now's the time when he usually sits in his office. Mary is in her seat at the front desk, clearly pleased to see me. "Oh, Vanessa, how nice to have you here. It's good to see a friendly face," she says jokingly, and I laugh. There are few women in this station, but it's always good to have some around you at work. "Good to see you, Mary. Is Jack present?" I ask, and she nods. I wave her goodbye and walk towards his office. His door's ajar, so I peek through to see if he doesn't have a meeting that I'm disturbing him in. Jack sits behind his desk, and I'm surprised to see Brady again. But what surprises me even more is seeing Jimmy pacing up and down the room. He is clearly stressed and regularly runs a hand over his face or through his hair. I've been standing here for less than half a minute, but he's already done it 10 times. They have Laura dead, together with her outcast brother. We're for KD. He shouts and Jack tuts him. I hide behind the door so I can't hear them. I look around but see no one walking around so far. I want to try to listen to this conversation as long as possible. You should never have let her do it. It was only a matter of time before she realized what was in the packages. Brady growls and Jimmy snaps at him. She was perfect, so submissive and completely dependent on me. I know you want to blame the MC for what they did, Dad, but this is going in the wrong direction. He says with venom in his voice and I gasp. What does he mean by that? What did the Red Devils do to him? Chef was the perfect victim, and sending Vanessa to them undercover after his overdose would have been perfect if he had really died from the overdose. But the Fuker is just drunk grouse Jack and I don't recognize him anymore. This is not the Jack that I know. I struggle to hold back my tears. Everything it told me feels like a lie and I haven't even heard the whole story yet. Sending Vanessa undercover was a mistake. We didn't think it through well enough. We need to get drugs into the club so we can catch them having drugs on the spot. During an investigation, Brady says, and I hear an approving grunt. We can't ask Vanessa. She has to keep trusting us as much as possible, says Jimmy, and I wonder if Jack and Brady have shared everything with him about my mission. I think she suspects us a bit already, I hear Jack whisper. What if we pretend we have a search warrant and secretly hide drugs somewhere during the search, and then someone else can find it, Brady suggests, and I swallow a lump in my throat. This can't be true. He can't make that happen. But we have to think this through, Jack says softly. I hear footsteps and voices and look around. I see my partner Meg and his temporary partner walking towards me in the hallway. Suddenly it occurs to me that I don't know whether I can trust Meg anymore. How do I find out who is involved in the plot? Vanessa. Meg yells down the hall and I feel the blood drop from my head. The men in the office must have heard this. I run over to them and give him a hug. I probably look like an idiot, but I don't want the men in the office to see me standing at the door, even though it's their own fault for not closing the door. That's insane when you make such plans, isn't it? But my decision is made. I'm going to tell the MC who I am and warn them. I don't know what happened between them and Jack in the past, but no one deserves to be innocently accused of anything. I may well lose my job and have to move to another place, but I can't let this pass me by. I've only known the people at the MC for a short time, but I'm sure they're good people, and if I'm ultimately wrong, I'll accept my loss. But right now, my body is crying out to protect the people at the MC, and that's what I'm going to do. Hey, you've never greeted me so enthusiastically, laughs Meg while giving me a hug back. Are you okay? You look so pale, he asks concerned when we let go of each other and look at each other. I missed you, and came to see everyone, I stutter, and I see confusion in his eyes. I'm normally a confident person and don't easily fall over my words. Vanessa, what are you doing here? Jack asks cheerfully, and I want to vomit when I see him happily walking towards me. What kind of game is he playing with me? I just came to say hello and ask some things about the listening devices, I say with a shrug, and I see Jack's eyes darken. We found useful information. Shall we discuss it tomorrow? We want to do a house search, so I have to prepare you for that so you don't get any surprises. When we get there, he says with a look backwards. There stands Brady with his arms folded and an angry look. Why not today? I ask annoyed, and he shrugs. I've got something else to do now, and then I'm going home because I've been neglecting my wife lately, he ends with a wink and I roll my eyes. TMI Jack, I say, and he bursts out laughing. I struggle to get a smile on my face and I feel Mick's eyes burning into my back. Normally Jack and I are always a lot of fun together. We could laugh at each other's jokes and some people thought we were really good friends too. I'll go then. See you tomorrow. Can it be afternoon? I have an early shift, I ask, and I see Jack thinking. We'll do it at 4 o'clock then. Unfortunately you can't come earlier, he says, and I nod. I turn around and give Mick a small smile. Then I walk out of the office and sit in my car. I'm unsure what to do, but I'm going to follow my heart. I grab my mobile and call. It takes a while for it to be answered, but I take a deep sigh when I hear a familiar deep muttering voice. Ashley, are you alright? Morgan said you were ill. We just walked out of church, Jackson aka still mutters, and I smile. I'm fine. Are Hammer and Ink still there? I asked carefully. Yes. Why? He asked, somewhat surprised. Can you stay there for a while? I have to discuss something important with you three. I say matter-of-factly as possible, but my voice is shaking. I can't control my nerves at the moment. Yes, I'll tell them. Is everything really okay? He asks and I sigh deeply. And really, I'll be there in 15 minutes, I say and hang up immediately. I don't know how I'm going to handle this conversation. Chances are they'll blow up if I tell them I was undercover. I take a few deep sighs to calm myself down. It's a storm in my head and my emotions are all over the place. I start the car and drive towards the club, not knowing what to expect. Chapter 15 or Truth. I step into the clubhouse and spot Morgan behind a bar. She looks at me and frowns. Of course, she didn't expect me here and wonders why I'm here. I look to the side and see Hammer, Ink, and Steel sitting in a booth together, talking animatedly and drinking a beer. I walk over to them and Hammer spots me first. He nods his head at me and Steel immediately stands up when I join them. His hand comes to my cheek and it caresses my cheek gently. The action brings tears to my eyes and I can't look at him anymore. He spots my moist eyes and turns my head back to him, his gray eyes looking worried and confused. What's going on? He asks softly and I shake my head. In a tear, can we go to your office, Hammer? I ask as I look around Steel at the president of the club. He nods and stands up. He looks at me with a neutral look and I fix my eyes on the floor. I really should put on my big girl panties, but I feel so defeated and betrayed and that feeling overpowers everything. I'm also worried because I can't feel betrayed, but I'm going to tell three intimidating men that I actually betrayed them too. I walk forward to Hammer's office and stop at the door. Before opening the door, I put a finger to my lips to make sure they don't make a sound. Let me go inside first, I whisper, and before Hammer can protest, I open the door and walk inside. The men stay in the doorway while I walk to the bookcase. I pull out a book and feel with my hand. As expected, I feel the eavesdropping device and pull it off the wall. I throw it on the floor and stomp on it. Then I pick it up and walk to a corner where there is a vase of flowers. I throw the crushed device in there to make sure it is really broken. What the? I hear Ink mumble and I take a deep breath before turning to face the men. It's safe to talk, I whisper, and Hammer storms in and sits in his chair behind the desk with some aggression. Explain what's going on, Ashley. He growls and I stiffen for a moment, but then pick myself up again. I look at Steel, who stands still in a corner with his arms folded. He looks at me with so much emotion on his beautiful face, and I prefer to crawl into his arms, where I know I feel safe. But I also know that in a few minutes, he probably doesn't want anything to do with me at all. So I hold back the urge to run to him. And no, Hammer says loudly, and it pulls me out of my thoughts, and I focus again in the now. I lean against a cupboard and cross my arms. I look them in the eyes and take a deep sigh to calm myself. Now what I'm about to tell you. Fouquet. I don't even know where to start. I sigh in frustration and run a hand through my hair to try and organize my thoughts. It has come to my attention today that a number of people in the police want to falsely accuse you of dealing drugs. I start and I hear Steel breathing in hard. Hammer looks hard at me and Ink shows no emotion. And you know this? Asks Hammer. Because, Fouquet, because I was sent here by them to gather information about your club. I wasn't here because I needed a job. I was here because I was sent undercover by my commissioner. My commissioner, I found out today, has a personal hatred against the club. Why? I don't know yet. I speak quickly, but as clearly as possible, but am cut off by Steel. Wait, you work for the police? He growls dangerously low and I nod. Fucking hell, he growls and punches a hole in the wall. I flinch and close my eyes. Go on, and don't leave anything out, says Hammer, now all angry as he casts a stern look at Steel to calm him down. I was assigned by Jack to go undercover here. I had a few days to prepare and I was lucky to be hired by you. While I was here undercover, I would receive regular updates from the bureau. But this was very slow and the information I received was confusing. When I also received information about Chef's case from a number of people here, the doubt started to strike me. The poor communication from Jack, the conversations with the man here, and just what I saw and encountered here. I eventually got eavesdropping equipment and placed it here in your office and in a vase at church. I say the latter softly because I know it is the most impact. And as expected, Hammer stands up and swears loudly. So everything that was discussed there, The police know. He asks with anger in his voice and I nod. Fouquet hell Ashley. Ink suddenly yells and I cringe at the outburst. Ink is always so calm and to see him like this is unsettling. When I saw Laura today, I recognized her from when I questioned her at the station. I start again, but am interrupted by Hammer. That was you. He asks and I nod. I remember being frustrated with Jack for letting her go when she was clearly involved in something wrong. But when I saw her today and still asked me to bring some food and drinks to church, I knew she would recognize me. I made up an excuse and headed home. On the way I decided that I unexpectedly wanted to go to Jack to create clarity. So little information during an undercover project is dangerous. And even though I knew you wouldn't do that much harm and I doubted Jack's honesty, I really wanted to force them to tell me everything. When I got to his office, I heard him talking to Brady and his son Jimmy. Laura's Jimmy. They talked about how Jimmy had been wrong in how he controlled Laura. It seemed that Jimmy wanted to make her as submissive as possible, which ultimately failed. Then they talked about it being a mistake to send me undercover, and about how they could frame you to prove you're still in the illegal business. I take a breath and continue. It couldn't stand there much longer. Colleagues arrived, so I had to walk away. It took me a while to piece it all together. But Chef's strange overdose, the name Jay going around, Laura's story that it was someone from the police or someone of influence. They were all puzzle pieces coming together. And I couldn't do this to you anymore. I couldn't pretend to be undercover anymore knowing that the innocent would be accused because of a personal grudge against you. I look at all three of them, but my eyes linger on a pair of gray eyes. They are hard and confused. I'm sorry. Tears roll down my cheeks. I can't keep myself steady like I had planned. I'm so sorry. I know it's my job, and I've always enjoyed doing it. Only I couldn't keep betraying you guys. And I hope you can do something with this information. They will do a raid sometime in the next few days, and they will have a search warrant on them. The idea was to put drugs somewhere unseen, and then another cop would find it and accuse you. I can help you where you want. But I also understand if you don't trust me or don't want to see me anymore. I decide that it's enough and I walk towards the door. I'm on the verge of a breakdown. Ashley, Steele says softly as I walk past him, and I look at him with wet eyes. Vanessa. My name is Vanessa, I whisper, and I look back at Hammer. I walk over to his desk and grab a pen and paper. Write down my address and phone number. This is my address and phone number. There is a chance they're watching me, so don't just drop by. But if you have any questions or anything else, you can call me, I say to him, and I take a hand over my cheek to wipe away a tear. I'm going to discuss this with my men. On the one hand, I'm furious, but on the other hand, I admire you for doing this. But know that you're fired, he says angrily, and I nod. Understood. I straighten my back and walk out of the office, ignoring Steele because I'm sure if I look at him I'm going to break. The conversation went better than I expected. I thought they would get all mad and throw me in a cellar to torture. But they were surprisingly calm, and I am grateful for that. I hope I was able to convince them and that they can come up with a plan. It's all still unclear how the whole web works. Like Jamie's drug dealing and why exactly they got Chef involved. Obviously it's because Jack has something against the club. But what it is something we still have to figure out. I don't think I'm part of it anymore. At the moment, I don't know what I'm part of anyway. Well, I'm still part of the police. But in my head, I've already said goodbye to my work. Too much has happened, so I feel like I can't work there anymore. I enter the recreation room and I see Morgan, Navy, and West talking to each other. They wave at me and wave me their way. I shake my head and quickly walk past them. I can't face them right now. But luck is not on my side as Morgan grabs my arm and turns me around. She looks at me with a worried look. What's going on? It's clear that she realizes that I wasn't really sick. Or at least that there's more going on that she doesn't know about. I have to go, Morgan. But I want you to know this. I'm sorry. Hammer will probably explain everything. But know that I'm very sorry. And that I had a very nice time with you. I really started to see you as a new friend, I say softly, and I quickly turn around and walk to my car. I'm driving away at a speed that would normally have given me a hefty fine. But at the moment, I don't care. I long for a warm bath and a tall glass of wine. And then I'm going to lie under my covers and watch a series to clear my head. Then I give myself time again to grind and think, and perhaps to make my own plan to bring out the truth. Chapter 16 is Truth. Fouquet. Ink mumbles. You could say that, Hammer muttered. We're all quiet after Vanessa's departure. Still standing still in the corner against the wall, I leaned my head back and closed my eyes. What we've all just been told. Fouquet, I really didn't see this coming. There are so many feelings going through me that I don't know what to do with them. I take a deep breath and try to sort it all out. On the one hand, I feel anger towards Vanessa, but on the other hand, I understand that it's her job and that she too is a pawn in a game that people higher up are playing with her and us. On the other hand, I'm confused. Why do they have a grudge against the club, and what happened that they go so far as to destroy us? I can't deny that the club used to do everything legally, but Hammer and I have worked hard to make the club as safe as possible, and we've invested a lot in different businesses in the city and surrounding area. What now, Prez? Ink's question interrupts my train of thought and my gaze goes to Hammer. The question is, do we believe her? Hammer asks and he looks at us, but he especially holds my gaze for a long time. She never said anything to you? He asks and I shake my head as if no. Did you ever find her to be suspicious? He asks and I shake my head again. Dude, today is not the day to speak as few words as possible, okay? Give us some more info, growls Ink, and I roll my eyes. I didn't know anything, okay? I'm just as amazed as you are, and if I had known this I would never have. I digress and look the other way. I don't like to show when I feel vulnerable, but when I say this I notice that it affects me more than I thought. It was the first time in a long time that I had a connection with a woman, or at least, that's what I thought. You didn't know, brother. Not your fault, says Hammer, and I nod again, still avoiding their gaze. We need to come up with a plan to reveal their plans, and we need to find people who are not on the payroll of Jack and his accomplices, so those people can help us expose these men. Ink begins, and I am pulled out of my thoughts. I shake my head and focus on the now. Ask Hack to look up all the information on Jack and Jimmy ASAP, and also that Brady dude just in case. If all goes well, he had already started with it, but I understood that it got stuck somewhere. Ask how that is, and also check Vanessa. To be sure, Hammer says to Ink, and Ink nods and walks out of the office. We need to get the eavesdropping device away from church. I want to have a meeting with all the members as soon as possible. I'm not going to hide this from our brothers. Everyone needs to be careful, Hammer says to me, and I get ready to walk out of the office. I believe her still, I hear Hammer say behind me, and I turn around. A surprised look in my eyes. I don't know what it is, but the look in her eyes, her story, and the clear feelings she has for you convince me that she is not lying to us. I think she herself has no idea who or what she must believe, but she has made the choice to betray her own colleagues, and that must be very hard for her, he says seriously, and I shrug my shoulders. And what if it's a trap? I ask, and it gets up and walks towards me. Then I will take responsibility and we will deal with it differently. But believe me, Steele, this woman was sent undercover and did not expect it to turn out like this. That includes falling in love with the VP of the club, he says with a wink, and I sigh. We have to collect evidence from all our companies that everything is legal, so that we, if the police come and raid, at least can prove that our business is legal. And we need to see if we can put up cameras so hopefully we can catch them if they're hiding drugs somewhere, I say, making a plan in my head, and Hammer nods happily. Good plan. I actually wanted to put up cameras earlier but never got around to it, and we might have exposed Vanessa ourselves. But I think it's good that it turned out this way, and even though I am boiling inside, I'm confident it's going to be okay, says Hammer, and he walks out of the office. In the background, I hear Morgan's voice, probably asking questions to Hammer about the situation. I walk towards the church and look for the vase that Vanessa was talking about. I still have to get used to the name switch, but Vanessa fits her well. I shake my head to get her out of my head. Now is not the time to think about her. I spot the vase and walk towards it. I look inside but see nothing. I feel with my hand and spot the small device. I take it out and squeeze it hard in my hand. Then I walk to the kitchen and throw it in a glass of water. I look at the device that floats in the glass and do not hear Morgan enter. What a load of shit. I thought these times were behind us, she mutters, and I turn around and see Morgan and Hammer standing behind me. We're a clean club, honey, and we can't prove it, Hammer mumbles as he kisses her on the head. Hammer's cell phone rings and he walks out of the kitchen to answer it. Morgan walks over to me and puts a hand on my shoulder. Are you okay? She asks softly, and I look at her. Yeah, Funnily enough, I'm angrier about what the police want to do to us than the fact that my potential old lady was spying on us. I mumble, and Morgan nods understandingly. She was genuinely upset when she said goodbye to me. I don't think she knew what she was getting into, or what she was immersed in, she says, and I nod. Ink says Hack has found valuable information, I hear Hammer say behind us, and we turn to look at him. He still needs some time to gather the last things, but I want to have church early tomorrow morning. Let everyone know Steele, he says with a pointing finger at me, and I nod. He walks out of the kitchen with Morgan but suddenly stops and turns back to me. He puts a piece of paper on the counter in front of him and looks at me intently, then walks away. I walk to the piece of paper and look at what it says. I look and I see a telephone number and an address. It's late, almost midnight. Would she still be awake? Is it smart to drop by? I have to be careful and keep as inconspicuous as possible. My Harley is too flashy, as painful as that is to say. I walk out of the club and grab one of the club cars. I check the navigation where I need to go, and it doesn't take me long to arrive at her residence. I park the car a bit further away and look around me. There are no cars along the road, but a few in the parking lot of her complex. It seems quiet, and as far as I can see, she is not being watched yet. I walk into the complex and look for her apartment. I almost feel paranoid because of the feeling that someone is following me. All the time I look around me, and it feels like I'm on a mission again. When I finally stand in front of her door, I look around me again. I listen for strange noises, look for movements but find nothing. I knock, and it takes a while for the door to open. She opens the door a crack and leaves the hook on it. I'm glad she's so careful and doesn't just open the door for everyone. She looks around the corner and her eyes widen when she sees me. Still, I hear her say breathlessly, and the door slammed in my face. I hear her take the hook off and the door opens all the way. She's standing in front of me in a dressing gown and her hair wet in a bun on top of her head. Her eyes are red and swollen. She looks tired and she clearly wasn't sleeping yet. "What are you doing here, Jackson?" she whispers, playing with the string of her robe, her eyes down. "Baby girl," I whisper, and I take a step towards her and take her in my arms. She puts her arms around my shoulders and puts her head on my neck. Her body shakes and I feel that she is crying from the wetness on my neck. "SSSHH. It's okay, baby," I mumble as I close the door behind me and put the hook back on. Then I walk over to the couch and sit down with her on my lap. She holds me tight and doesn't seem to intend to let go of me. She always seemed such a confident, strong woman, but right now she's a mess and it hurts me to see her like this. "I'm so sorry, Jackson. It was my job. It was an assignment and it was such a great opportunity for me. I really didn't know it would turn out like this," and she babbles on and on in my neck, but I grab her so she has to look at me. "Where's that beautiful, strong woman I've gotten to know lately?" I mumble, wiping the tears from her cheeks with my thumbs. She makes a strange noise in her throat, and I don't know if it's because she's laughing or she's crying. "She lost herself for a while," she whispers, staring at her hands fiddling with my t-shirt. "Hammer believes you. Funnily enough, no one is mad at you," I say convincingly, hoping she believes me. Her eyes dart to mine, and I see great surprise and disbelief. "Really?" she asks, and I nod. Honestly, I think only Ink is still struggling with this revelation, and I don't know how the rest of the brothers are going to react. But Hammer believes you. She looks at her hands again and seems to be thinking. "And you?" she asks uncertainly, after which she looks at me again. "Aren't you right?" I say, shrugging, and she rolls her eyes. "Yes, that doesn't necessarily mean you believe me. And I work for the police. And I know you don't care much for the police," she says, and a grin comes on my face. She spots that and raises one eyebrow. "Baby, if I didn't believe you, I wouldn't be here. And you weren't sitting so intimately on my lap," I say with a wink, and she rolls her eyes again, only this time with a smile. "I can't say I didn't feel betrayed at first, but like Hammer, I have faith in you, and I hope you won't betray that I whispered the last." But she heard it clearly. "Oh, I promise," she says with certainty, and I pull her against me in a hug. We sit like this for several minutes, and I enjoy the feeling of her body against me. Eventually, she gets up and wipes her face with her sleeve. "Sorry for all my drama," she says with a smile, and I run my hands over her waist and hips. My hand goes to her neck, and my fingers run through her hair. Her eyes clash with mine, and a kind of electricity is seen between us. I pull her head towards me and our mouths clash in a hungry, passionate kiss. My tongue enters her mouth and we engage in a fight for dominance that neither of us wants to lose. Where is your bedroom? I mumble against her mouth and she points to a door behind her. I get up with her in my arms and walk towards the bedroom. I unceremoniously drop her onto the bed and crawl over to her and hover over her. My hands untie the rope from her dressing gown and it falls open. She's almost completely naked except for her underwear and I'm on. Were you naked the entire time you Saturday on my lap? I groan softly and she nods with a naughty look in her eyes. Close off, Mr. VP, she says, trying to take control. I tut her and kiss her hard before standing up and staring at her. In the bedroom. Am I the boss, baby girl? I growl and I see her eyes widen, followed by a hungry look that speaks volumes. Show me then, big guy, she whispers sensually, and it doesn't take long before we are both undressed. Patience is not my best side. Chapter 17. Who's boss? I'm so sore. Which is not surprising, because Jackson has spent a long time trying to prove that he is the boss in bed. What, if I do say so myself, was well done. We're entwined. Me half on top of him, resting my head on his chest. I rub my hands through his light chest hair and look at the clock next to him on the bedside table. It's 6 a.m. and I feel wide awake, which is pretty strange considering we only fell asleep 4 hours ago. Jackson snores, pretty loud I can tell you, and is still far in dreamland. He told me he has church at 8, so I might as well stay awake instead of trying to go back to sleep. My hand slides over his chest and stomach and my gaze falls on a tent under the blanket. This man has stamina. It's not normal, man. I pull the sheet off him and straddle his waist. Him ONS in his sleep but doesn't seem to wake up yet. I guide him inside me and start to ride him calmly. It takes a while, but suddenly his eyes fly open and he shoots up. That took a long time. I tease him and he looks at me with wide eyes, clearly still half in dreamland. Wasn't last night enough? He croaks with a SI morning voice, and that makes me ride him a little faster. I was greeted very enthusiastically when I woke up, so I decided to say hello back. And his hands grab my hips to help me. Fucking hell, baby. So good. He falls back and pushes me up and down harder with his hands. I grab his wrists and pin his hands above his head, a surprised but hot look on his face. Though, who's in charge now, big guy? I say teasingly, and he grunts an almost animal growl but makes no move to turn the tables. It's not long before we release together, and I let myself fall on top of him, resting my head on his neck while trying to catch my breath. What time is it? He mutters softly and I smile at the accusatory undertone. 6 o'clock. Now probably 20 past 6, I whisper and MONS disapprovingly. Fouquet. I could still use some sleep, he growls, and I laugh as I rest my chin on his chest and look at him. Sorry. Not sorry, I say with a shrug, and he chuckles. You can wake me up like this every morning, he says while he makes figures on my back. I sigh content but notice that now that I'm completely awake, that the wheels in my head start running again. I have a meeting with Jack today. I mumble and I feel Jackson stiffen. He sits us up and looks at me seriously. I don't know if that's wise, he says with a frown, and I rub my index finger between his eyebrows over the wrinkles that have formed there. I feel like it's all gone to shit already, but I think Jack doesn't know that I know so much about his plan. I think it's wise to keep this facade up, I say, my finger running through his hair. Jackson seems deep in thought and I let him think about my words for a moment. What time do you meet? He mutters with his eyes closed, secretly enjoying my head massage. Around 4, I say, and he nods. I have church, so come to the club first, then we can see if we can come up with a solution for your meeting, he says, and I shake my head. I can't show up there right now, Jackson. Everyone hates me there, I say guiltily, and I hang my head, feeling the weight of the club's anger on my shoulders. Some will take it better than others, but know that you have our support, so there's a good chance that the rest will be behind us soon, he says quietly while raising my head with his hand. I hate this situation. I joined the police force to help people. See, and then this happens. I throw up my hands in frustration and find my eyes moistening again. Let's do it this way. He begins, placing his big hands on my cheeks and looking at me intently, and I begin to wonder what I've earned his affection for. I'm going to church and see how it goes. I'll call you when it's safe to come and everyone's in agreement. You actually have a shift in the morning, so it would make sense if you just let it continue. If you are being watched, they will at least have the idea that you are still on your mission, he says confidently, and a smile comes to my face. It's quite attractive when he's in bossy mode. Just like last night. What is it? He grumbles when he gets no response from me and probably sees me looking at him with a stupid grin. Sorry, it's just nice to hear you talk so much. You have a SI voice, or you don't use it enough, I say teasingly, and he rolls his eyes, but I see the corners of his mouth go up. Eyes, just like that. I point to the corners of his mouth. These should also go up more often, I say enthusiastically, and his face breaks into a big smile. A beautiful sight, I can say. He mumbles something unintelligible and falls back into bed. I laugh at his grumpy attitude and get out of bed. He says, holding out a hand to me and looking surprised. What are you doing? He mutters. I'm going to take a shower, I say with a shrug, and it frowns as if it disagrees. Come to sleep, it growls, and I shake my head. A dark glint comes into his eyes, and I feel like I'm in trouble. Come, ew, dead. Now, he commands, and I have to make an effort to keep my face straight. I shake my head as if in no and take a few steps back. Before I know it, I'm being chased by my grumpy giant, and I almost piss my pants laughing. It's not long before he has me over my shoulder, and I feel a sting of pain on my ash from his big hand. Oh, I scream, and I give him a tap on his buttocks back. Even his buttocks are made of steel. I'm thrown onto the bed, and Jackson is directly above me with an amused look in his eyes. You're not listening to me, he mumbles, and he starts a kiss attack on my neck, and I worm in all directions laughing. It took us a while to get into the shower after that, and as you can imagine, Jackson wasn't happy when I said we had to shower separately. But I couldn't anymore. My vagina is completely destroyed after last night. I hadn't had any action there for some time, so it's a bit sensitive. We are having breakfast together when Jackson tells me he needs to go. I walk him to the door, and he promises to call me when I can come. He sees my nervousness and gives me a reassuring kiss. It's going to be okay, baby. My brothers aren't that bad, he says with a wink, and I melt from his behavior. I grab his coat and pull him towards me, give him one last kiss, and then push him out the door. It's almost 9:30 when I get a call, and he asks if I can come to the club. My nerves were already sky high, but now I'm having a low-key panic attack. I walk to my car and look around. On the side of the road, I see a manned car with 2 people in it. My gut tells me I'm being watched, so it's a good thing I'm going to the club, even though I almost shit my pants. The drive takes a bit longer than expected due to a traffic jam due to an accident, and when I drive past the accident, I see Mick standing with his partner. A feeling of dread goes through me, and I notice that I miss my job. The rush you sometimes have with these kinds of reports. The urge to get everyone to safety and the kick you get when it ends well is like nothing else. I'm still half in my world of the police when I arrive at the gate of the club. My car is recognized, and they open the gate for me. When I have parked my car, I see Morgan walking out. She spots my car and walks towards me. I take a deep sigh to calm myself and get out of the car. Morgan comes to a stop in front of me and looks at me intently. I start to feel uncomfortable under her stare and start to wiggle back and forth on my feet. I find myself getting frustrated with the fact that I feel so insecure. I'm normally a confident woman who doesn't get uncomfortable easily, but the last few days I don't feel like myself anymore. I raise my chin and look straight at Morgan, hopefully showing her that I'm not to be messed with. It feels good to take back a little part of myself, and I hope I can hold on to this when I face the guys. A smile comes on her face and she gives me a hug. I'm a bit perplexed, but soon hug her back. I think what you've done is brave, and know that I don't blame you. But if you do betray us, know that you will get to see my bad side, because I protect my club with my life, she says while she lets go and looks at me sternly. I swallow and nod. You promise I have no bad intentions, and I was just doing my job, I say with a shrug and a smile on her face. Tom, they're waiting for you in church, she says as she puts her arm through mine and pulls me into the clubhouse. Chapter 18 Church. I slowly walk into the cage of lions. All eyes are on me, and I have to make a great effort not to look at the ground. My eyes move to the head of the table, where I spot Hammer and Steel. Hammer gestures to an empty seat between Steel and him, and I take a seat between the 2 imposing men. Okay, my brothers. Hammer starts, and I'm shocked by his hard voice. I feel a hand on my thigh, and I look at Jackson. His hand feels reassuring, but his gaze is hard as steel. He's in full VP mode, and there's no time for a loving look. You know Vanessa by now, formerly known as Ashley, although she was here undercover for the police. She is now under our protection as we have just unanimously decided, Hammer says with authority, and there is a murmur of agreement. My eyes widen and I look around me. I catch Navy's eye and it looks at me with a penetrating look. Navy is the one I've been talking to a lot and I've gotten quite a lot of information from him. I hope he's not very angry with me. Vanessa, can you swear here before my brothers that you will be on our side from now on, and that you will go and help us fight against police injustice? Hammer fixes his eyes on me and I never seen such a cold look in his eyes. It feels like I'm saying yes or no to some crazy wedding twist with the question he's asking me. But I'm guessing this is some kind of club policy that makes me kind of part of them now. Eyes, I promise, I say solemnly, and Hammer nods. There is some muttering at the table again, and I feel a squeeze on my leg from Steele's hand. How do we know you won't switch sides again? Vanessa asks West, and I see Steele shoot his head towards him. West looks at me defiantly, and I get a small smile on my face. I didn't expect it to go so effortlessly, so a little fire from the brothers feels like a small gift. Now I can at least tell my story in short. I know I'm probably not your best friend right now, and I totally understand that. But I hope you can understand that I have been sent on a mission by my supervisor because of suspicious situations that are said to be happening here. I didn't know you back then, and I had never heard of you. All I knew about you was from some information I had received from my supervisor Jack. I have always done my job with great pleasure and passion, but honesty and fairness are high on my list of priorities. So if I find out that the people I work with are on the wrong side of the law, I want to do everything I can to take these people to court. So, to answer your question, West, yes, if I find out that everything I've seen here and what I've been told is a lie, and you guys are doing some illegal stuff, then I'll be sure to switch sides. But I'm convinced that's not the case, and that the people on the wrong side of the law are the ones enforcing the law. And I can tell you, as a police officer, does that hurt? I need to catch my breath after my sermon and the room is dead silent. Then West nods with a smile and somewhere someone shouts, "Okay, yes." It's clear that my answer was the right answer and that everyone is relieved. Silence! Hammer shouts loudly, but I spot a satisfied smile on his face. On my other side, Steele is sitting with small lifted lips and little reaction. What else did I expect from my grumpy giant? Vanessa, our plan is as follows. Hammer begins, and I give him my attention. I have the feeling that some important things are coming. I heard from my VP that you have an appointment with Jack this afternoon for an update on the case. Our guy got sights on some messages between Jack and Brady about a house search they want to do tomorrow. I hope you can get as much information as possible from Jack this afternoon. Let him know that you are still working on your assignment and that you still believe his story. Steele has bought a number of cameras that will be delivered this afternoon to Ink's tattoo shop. He will take them with him, and we will install them in all areas this afternoon. Tonight at 9 p.m., I want another church meeting to discuss today's developments. Chef and Laura will also be there, says Hammer without taking his eyes off me. What's the plan if they find out this afternoon that I've switched sides? I ask, expressing my deepest concern. I'll send Navy and Denzel after you, but without their cut, so they won't be recognized as members of the club. They have a date on the terrace of the cafe opposite the police station, says Hammer with a wink towards Navy and Denzel. The men both have to laugh uncomfortably, but the jealous look on West's face speaks volumes. If everything goes well and they give you no indication that they no longer believe you, you go home in the usual way. But if things go wrong, call our app Navy. They will come to you to drive you home safely, says Hammer, and I nod. It sounds like a good plan. Today we have gathered the last piece of evidence to prove that we don't have illegal companies as a club. Chef and Laura are in a safe house, and only Steele and I know where that is. I want them far from the police at the moment. Hammer and the club seem confident, so again I nod in agreement. Sounds like a plan. Let's hope they don't suspect me, yet I'm almost somewhat unsure, and again, I feel a tap in my upper leg. This time I feel Steele staring at me, but I decide to look at my nails. They really need a new color. Church dismissed, says Hammer, and everyone empties out of the room to do their own thing. Hammer, I ask softly, and it turns his attention to me with a soft stare. What do you want me to do here? I ask carefully. Preferably I just go to work to take my mind off things. But I don't know if they want that. Oh, Morgan could really use your help. She said you were welcome. He shrugs, and I nod. Hammer stands up, and only Steele and I are left in the room. His hand still on my leg, and I look at him silently. Everything okay? He asks carefully and I smile, grateful for his care. Yes, relieved actually, I say thoughtfully and he nods in agreement. Some were quite angry, but they calmed down when Hammer explained better. He explains and I shrug. I would have understood if they were still angry. I mumble and Steele chuckles. Surah, but they're good men, he says and I nod with a smile. That was clear to me by now. I'm going to work. I'm also needed in the shop to help with a repair, he says as he gets up and pulls me up with him. He leans down and kisses me on the mouth, turns around with a wink and walks away. I walk behind him and stop for a moment to observe the room. There are some men here and there and a devil's girl is behind the bar. Morgana comes out of the kitchen and beckons me in her direction. But before I get to the kitchen, I feel a hand on my shoulder. I turn around and face Navy. I grab the hand on my shoulder in mine and squeeze it. Hey, I say softly, and a small smile appears on his face. Navy is normally very cheerful and laughs a lot, but when he looks at you so neutrally, he suddenly looks a lot like steel. Hey, he says back, and then smiles softly and squeezes my hand. I'm sorry, he cuts me off when I want to apologize. Don't say sorry, darling. Everything is fine. I actually came to give you a hug and tell you that you can always talk to me if you need a listening ear, he says with the most sincere look I've ever seen on someone's face. Oh, Navy. I get tears in my eyes and my emotions become too much for me. He takes me in his arms and we hug each other for a while. I get a kiss on my head and we distance ourselves again. Talk to you later, sis, he says with a wink and a smile and I giggle at the sister part. I help Morgan in the kitchen with lunch and then stand behind the bar for a while. It's surprisingly a very nice day and everyone is nice to me. Many people come to have a chat and many have questions about my profession. I'm so thankful to them here for reacting like this. I thank them for it very often today. It is now 3 o'clock and I notice that I'm getting more and more nervous in the run-up to the meeting later. I can't shake the feeling that something is going to happen. This morning I was convinced that it would be okay this afternoon, but at the moment, I think the opposite. Chapter 19, Jack's Truth. I'm in Jack's office. Behind me is Jimmy, shoving a gun in my back. The moment I walked into the office, I knew something was wrong. Brady is at the door and I hear the lock click. Jimmy pushes me forward with his gun so that I face Jack, and the man in question looks at me with a sinister smile. The cheerful and reliable commissioner is nowhere to be seen, but he has been moved for a grim man with few good plans. What is this, Jack? I ask quietly. I look at him, then quickly look behind me at the other two men. It's high time for a good talk, Vanessa, says Jack in a low voice, and he takes a seat behind his desk. Jimmy pushes his gun in my back, and I take a seat in the chair next to me. And is a gun in my back necessary for that? I ask with raised eyebrows and Jack shakes his head. That's a precaution, he replies with a shrug. I roll my eyes and try to appear so nonchalant. My cell phone burns in my pocket, and I have to see if I can't send a quick message. Only I don't see that happening at the moment. I have to try to keep as calm as possible. I know Jack is not a hot-tempered person, but the same cannot be said about his lovely son. Let me question again. What is this, Jack? I ask more urgently, and Jack leans back with a sigh. What did you learn at the club, Vanessa? Is his first question, and I think for a moment about the answer I want and can't give. I think you know more than I do, Jack, by now, since you have my laptop connected to the eavesdropping device. And given that the only good information I got at our first meeting was in the park, and even that was minimal, I start with a bite in my voice to make it clear that I don't like to be messed with. He nods a little, and I hear one of the men behind me chuckle. Bunch of jerks. What was the giant doing in your apartment last night? Bray suddenly asks, and I feel myself stiffen. I look back, and he looks at me with an arrogant look. Shaw doesn't even deny it. Jimmy chuckles, and then laughs like a hyena. I roll my eyes and turn to Jack. You didn't even give me a chance to respond, idiot. It blurts out before I've thought it through, and I mentally slap myself. I feel something hard pressing against my back and then warm breath on my neck. Breath that contains a hint of alcohol. I think you're forgetting who has the gun here, he growls in my ear, after which he painfully pushes the gun into my back. Enough, Jimmy. Stand down, Jack says with a hand up, and I feel Jimmy pull away. I'll explain it for you, Vanessa. There is a small pause, and my nerves start to get worse. We know you betrayed us, he says with a hard look in my direction, and I stiffen in my chair. I knew from my eavesdropping adventure the other day that they regretted sending me and that she didn't trust me completely anymore. But this, I didn't expect. Why do you say that? I asked, surprised, hoping to remain as innocent as possible. Don't play so coyness, snaps Brady, who suddenly stands next to me and looks at me with a vicious look. We have an inside man, Jimmy says with a smile in his voice, and my eyes widen. Oh, I asked in a slightly high-pitched voice, so they can clearly hear that I'm nervous. Is it? Get it together, girl. You probably only know him as Wes, says Jack with a raised eyebrow, and I gasp. Oh, I don't believe that, I say, shaking my head, and Jimmy laughs like a hyena again. West has been a member of the club for several years, and as far as I know, a loyal brother. And besides that, I'm pretty sure he and Navy are together. What a little blackmail and money can do to a man. Brady grins and my eyes widen. You blackmailed him to keep an eye on me, so he knew who I was all along? I ask, surprised, while I dig into my memory for conversations with West. He wasn't the biggest talker, but I never felt he knew about my work. Maybe only during the last church, where I asked if there was any chance I might switch sides again. He only recently found out, but it turns out we weren't a moment too soon, since after the last church, he could tell us all about what you told the club. It's been treacherously quiet ever since the eavesdropping equipment suddenly stopped working, says Jack in a treacherously calm tone. I start to get really nervous now. Why are you doing this, Jack? I ask quietly, giving up trying to make myself look innocent, even though I'm not so guilty myself and the real villains are standing around me. Revenge, Vanessa. Revenge, he says with a snarl, and I throw up my hands. Another vague answer. Then explain it to me, Jack, I say almost pleadingly, and I see in his eyes that he is going to give in to my request. I had a little brother who was 1 year younger than me. Les was good friends with Hank, the father of Reed A.K. Hammer. Lance was a few years younger than Hank, but that didn't stop him from having a good friendship. Hank was already president of the club at the time, and the club made money by smuggling drugs across the state. Hank liked a little sniffing himself, and it wasn't long before Lance was tempted to. Jack's eyes look into the distance as he seems to relive the memories. Lance quickly became addicted, where Hank could handle it and only took it during parties. I saw it too late, and by then, Lance was completely addicted to the white shitty powder. A week after I found out, Lance accidentally overdosed, or better, the batch was wrong. He was in a coma in the hospital. His heart was weak due to the extensive use of the coke, and he suffered from arrhythmias. Lance passed away after being in a coma for a week. But when we got the death report, it said death from cardiac arrest instead of death from overdose. I wanted to protest, but my parents didn't want to hear about it. First, I thought it was because they wanted to mourn, but it later turned out that the club had bribed the doctor to put a different cause of death on it, and that they gave my parents a large amount of money to make sure that the overdose could not be traced back to the club. It turned out that the club had a bad batch of coke, and Hank had given some of that batch to Lance. The rest had become ill, but because Lance had taken a larger amount, it killed him. Jack looks at me with anger and frustration in his eyes. Telling the story hurts him, but also brings with it a lot of resentment. My father, the weak man, gambled away all the club's money, leaving him and my mother in huge debts. He growls almost animalistically. That fucking club destroyed my family, and I'll get even with them. He yells in my face, and I close my eyes to keep myself calm. I'm sorry this happened, Jack, but you're a cop, and what you're doing is totally illegal. I snap at him, hoping to get him on the right path, against my better judgment. I've been on the wrong track for years, Vanessa. Jack mumbles softly and I snort. Like you try to cover up Jimmy's drug careers, I ask sarcastically. How can you approve of something like that when you want revenge on a club that supposedly killed your brother? There's nothing right about this anymore, Jack. I scream in his face, losing my temper. I want revenge. Hammer's life for Lance's. Then we're even. Hank has already paid with his life through the cartels. Now his son, growls Jack, and my eyes widen. And no, Hammer has nothing to do with this anymore. He was just a child then. I say fleetingly, but Jack shakes his head. I was going to take it easy and search their club, but I guess since the club seems to like you so much, I'll use you as bait, Jack says as he stands up, walks over and calls me up. Bree, have a civilian car ready at the door. We're going to visit the club. Jack grabs my arm and looks at me sternly as Brady walks out of the room. Don't do this, Jack. You're not thinking straight, I beg him, but he grins viciously and squeezes my arm hard. You know this isn't going to end well for you, Jack. I try again and he shakes his head. I've been dying for a while now, Vanessa. Ever since they found a tumor in my head. This is about revenge for Lance. Revenge for my little brother who was killed by the club. He growls in my face and tears well up in my eyes. Jack is dying. Could the tumor in his head be the reason why he's gone so mad? Because what's happened feels so incredibly useless. It's been years since this happened and Hank is already dead and the club has been legal for years. But why are Jimmy and Brady involved? Don't they realize Jack's all out of whack? Jack and Jimmy escort me to the back exit of the desk, where Brady is already waiting for us. I feel in my pocket and grab my mobile in my hand. In an emergency speed, I try to unlock it and I feel my heart beating in my throat. The men haven't figured it out yet, so I quickly look down and call the top number on my list. Then I hide my phone in my pants. But that action was spotted by Brady. What did you just put in your pocket? He walks towards me aggressively and I try to walk back but bump into Jack. Give it over. Brady yells in my face, but he doesn't wait for my reaction and feels in the back pocket of my pants. He fishes out my phone and looks at the screen. Is it? He ends the call and throws my phone away. Then I get a punch in the face and I feel the metallic taste of blood in my mouth. Bitch, don't do crazy things. He growls and he pulls me into the car by my hair. I hear Jack behind me trying to reassure Brady. But Brady is very upset about the phone incident. He probably feels stupid because he didn't search me first. If I were him, I would feel stupid. My jaw throbs and I must admit that Brady has a good right angle. I put my head against the headrest and try to calm myself down. I hope the call went through and the men know something is wrong. I look outside and see that we drive past the cafe where Navy and Denzel are sitting outside. Denzel looks intensely at all the cars that drive by and so is ours. Our eyes meet but I don't let it show that I've spotted him. Brady is next to me and Jimmy is in the co-driver's seat in front of me. As long as I keep my cool, hopefully they will too. And I find myself calming down a bit now that I know Denzel has seen me. Let's hope that it can warn the club in time, and hope that they realize that we are on their way to them. Chapter 20. A madman. They just passed by in a car. I guess they're heading towards you. But I'm not sure. I hear my brother say through the phone and my heart sinks. What are they up to? Was it in a police car? I ask. If they come in uniform, is the information Vanessa told is true and will they come with a search warrant? Ew. Civilian car. Navy says as I hear car doors slam shut over the phone and I hear their car drive away with tires screeching. Should I mumble and I look at Hammer concerned? I don't trust it anymore. Why would they come this way unnoticed? This whole thing is strange and my feeling is that we are missing a very big part of the story. It was a dark blue Volkswagen sedan. We're trying to track them down right now, says Navy, and I grumble in agreement. My thoughts go in all directions and I'm also worried about Vanessa. I'll pass it on. Be careful, I tell Navy. Okay, big brother, he says with a chuckle and I hang up. Even in serious times, Asher can stay calm and positive. A character trait that I have to put in a lot of effort for and that I would also like to have. I turn to Hammer. We are sitting at a table with Ink, West and Morgan. There are even more brothers around us and the atmosphere is tense. A mentality emerges that I haven't seen in a long time. Do you want to destroy the club? Then we will destroy you too. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Vanessa was in the back of a car with at least men. They're not in uniform and Navy suspect. They're coming our way. Navy and Denzel are trying to find the car. It's a dark blue Volkswagen sedan. I say aloud so everyone can hear. Buzz echoes through the room as everyone begins speculating with each other. Hammer looks doubtful and I'm eager to know what he's thinking. And when his gaze catches mine, I raise an eyebrow. I want for men at the gate, and then 2 more at the entrance of the club. We will continue with our activities, but everyone will stay here in the club. If you have business outside the club, you cancel it immediately. If they come here, you let me and still speak. No fighting until I give a signal. If things get out of hand, Hammer is strict and clear and everyone nods. The president has spoken and that is being listened to. I send West and Ryder, who is a newbie, to the entrance of the door and send for other brothers to the gate. It's not even 15 minutes later when Hammer gets a call that the police are at the gate. He also says it's about the blue sedan. Hammer says they can't drive on and 2 men have to stay there and the other to follow the police and escort them to the club. I feel my hands get clammy and I look through the window to see if I can't catch a glimpse of Vanessa. I feel a hand on my bicep and I catch Morgan's gaze. She squeezes my arm and gives me a reassuring look. It's clear she wants to reassure me and she knows I'm worried about Vanessa. It's going to be okay, she whispers and I nod briefly. She squeezes my arm again and then walks away. I see the car parked in front of the door and I grunt when I see the car hitting one of the bikes. The fucker damaged one of our bikes. He has no idea what kind of shit he got on his roof. 3 men get out and I recognize the idiot getting out from behind. He once fined me for speeding. Yup, sorry not sorry. The driver is the oldest and clearly in charge. That must be the famous Jack. He walks around the car and rips open the door. He pulls Vanessa out of the car and pushes her towards the clubhouse. He puts a fucking gun to her back. Hammer walks out and Morgan follows him, glancing back angrily and pointing a finger toward the kitchen. Apparently he doesn't want her here and hopes she'll be safe in the kitchen waiting for it to be over. He probably knows better, because he only takes a deep breath and gives in when Morgan puts her hands on her hips and gives him an angry look. He glances at me and beckons me to follow him. I move from behind the window after a quick glance at Vanessa. She seems calm, but her stance is stiff as she is now shoved to the idiot who pushes her forward. I walk out the front door with Hammer and Morgan. Ink is waiting inside with some brothers to guard things there. Outside we are enthusiastically greeted by Jack, but my eyes look into Vanessa's. She mouthed an "I'm sorry" to me, and I lightly shake my head with a small smile. Hopefully it will reassure and calm her down a bit. This is not her fault. Hammer, Jack yells as he walks over to us and wants to shake Hammer's hand. Hammer crosses his arms over his chest and looks straight at Jack. What do you want? Jack, isn't it? Hammer asks calmly with a tilted head, and Jack drops his hands beside him with a roll of his eyes. Though, is this the tone we're starting on? Jack says jokingly, spreading his hands wide. Vanessa frowns at him and gives him a strange look. We know what your plan is, Jack. You've already hurt some of our club members enough. Go back to your desk and do something useful with your life instead of falsely accusing us. Hammer growls in Jack's face, and Jack in response starts laughing out loud. It almost sounds maniacal. And that's where you're wrong, my friend. I do have a personal vendetta against you, and I'm here to get my revenge. He waves his arms wildly, and my suspicion that something is wrong with him grows stronger. Little Vanessa here has just heard my story. Maybe she wants to repeat it for me, he says as he glances at her and winks. Vanessa shakes her head and looks at him angrily. In response, the idiot pushes his gun against her temple and whispers something in her ear. This is madness, she whispers loudly to the idiot, and he responds by growling at her some more, which I can't understand. Jack, you need to see a doctor. This isn't healthy for you. Think about your health, she says softly and almost begging as she looks at him. The idiot apparently is not happy with her answer because he growls in her ear and pushes the gun hard against her temple. Vanessa's face twists and it's clear she's in pain. I take a menacing step forward ready to jump in, but I feel a hand on my chest. Hammer looks at me sternly and shakes his head. He knows I prefer to break out into a fire right now. Vanessa, I think you are at a disadvantage right now. So be careful what you say. Well, be a good girl and explain to the president and his dogs why we are here. He caresses a finger over her cheek and then looks at me with a cruel smile. Remember when I said I thought he was crazy? Yes, that suspicion has now been confirmed. And that is also confirmed by Vanessa, who keeps giving Jack a strange look, as if she is worried about him, which seems strange in this situation since she has a gun pointed to her head, yet she seems more worried than anxious. Vanessa sighs and looks at me with sad eyes. She gives me a small smile and I give a nod in response. Vanessa starts talking about Jack's little brother Lance, who was friends with Hammer's father Hank. Hank and Lance occasionally did drugs together. But apparently Lance was slacker and became addicted to that poison. After an overdose that led to his death, the club paid the hospital money to make it look like a cardiac arrest rather than an overdose, not to lead it back to the club. Jack and Lance's father gambled away that money, leaving them in debt. Jack blames the club for his family's demise and wants revenge, but Jack has a tumor in his head, so I doubt Vanessa screams as the idiot pulls hard on her hair. What the fuck do you think you're doing, Nessie? He growls at her and Vanessa fights the pull on her hair. If you want to get out of here alive, let her go now, I shout with a growl in my voice, and the bastard seemed really impressed by my threat. Suddenly Jack pulls out a gun and points it at Hammer. The man in question doesn't move and just looks straight at Jack. Your life for Lance's. Hank's death wasn't enough. Your family must pay for the paying mine, as head Jack's hand holding the gun shakes slightly. Some people can see it, but as an ex-military I spot this and I frown. Vanessa's words about a tumor echo in my head and the puzzles come together. Hammer raises two hands and steps forward. Behind me Morgan is Hammer's name, but it doesn't listen. I'm sorry about what happened to your family, Jack. I recognize that the club used to operate illegally, and I will be the last to say that my Ashov and father was a good man. But I've worked extremely hard to get the club on the right track, and we haven't done illegal activities for a long time. You can live in the past. You can't blame me for something my dad and the club did back then, Hammer said in a calm voice. My respect for this man grows by the minute. He remains so calm when his life is literally on the line. He never shows that he is afraid, and because of his calmness, the rest of the club members are also calm. I am convinced of that. He wants revenge, idiot. You have no idea how much time and effort we put into this. Your annoying cook, together with this whore of a sister that I had under my thumb. Suddenly the baby starts to talk. It is Jack's son, who had cleverly kept his mouth shut until now. Jimmy, shut your fucking mouth, son. This isn't a fight, Jack shouts back with a wild look in his eyes. Something seems to explode when everyone starts shouting at once. Jack waves his gun wildly through the air, but eventually keeps pointing it at Hammer. Hammer begins to lose his temper and talks back to Jack in a harsh tone, trying to reason with the confused man, but it seems in vain. Jack, stop this man, Northeast SS, Vanessa screams as she tears herself away from the idiot's arms and walks towards Jack. Baby, ew, I shout in panic when I see Jack's gun swinging towards Vanessa. My heart races in my chest as I take a few long strides toward Vanessa. A bang fills the air and screams come from all sides. I throw myself against Vanessa and we both fall to the ground. We both groan from the impact, but luckily I was able to avoid falling on her with my full weight. I brush her hair out of her face and look at her. Her eyes are closed and her face is contorted in what looks like pain. I push myself up and inspect her body, cursing as I see blood ouncing from her shoulder. Vanessa, no, mutters Jack standing behind me, his face wide and his eyes wild. No, not Vanessa, he whispers, and he runs his hands through his hair. I spot the gun in one of those hands and signal Hammer to grab the gun. Call an ambulance, I shout behind me, and I press my hands into her wound. Vanessa moans in pain and her eyes roll in her head. Stay with me, baby. Stay awake. Show me your beautiful eyes, I say to her in mild panic. I pull my shirt over my head and press it against her wound. Jack has been knocked to the floor by Hammer, and next to him are Jimmy and the idiot on the floor, each with a club member behind them to guard them. Suddenly Navy is next to me and it puts a hand on my shoulder. He looks around and assesses the situation. West, Vanessa whispers and I frown. Navy and I look at each other and then look back at her. West, you, everything, she mutters and my eyes widen. I look at Navy when an angry look comes into his eyes. We both look wildly around to look for the man in question, but he is nowhere to be seen. We need 2 ambulances, Hammer yells, and I look behind me at my president. Jack is convulsing on the floor, drool coming out of his mouth. Jimmy screams and shoots to help him, but Hammer stops him from going to his dad. You can injure him if you touch him now, or it can injure you. Make sure his surroundings are clear until the fee is over, he says calmly, and Jimmy calms down. What a shit show. Chapter 21, Injured Mind. I sit next to the hospital bed Vanessa is in. Beeping noises fill the room and make me uncomfortable. Her small hand lies lifeless in mine and feels cold. In her other hand is an IV that gives her medicine and hydration. The door opens and Navy walks in, his normally happy face looking grim and gloomy. He comes to stand next to me and puts a hand on my shoulder as we look at Vanessa in silence. The past few days have been hell. After the ambulances took Jack and Vanessa away, 2 police cars arrived. The man who introduced himself as Mick said that it was Vanessa's former partner and that when they came to work today, chaos had broken out. It turns out that Jack's wife Lisa had come to the station in a panic because she had received strange messages from Jack. Lisa had told Mick that her husband is ill and that she has been trying to keep him home for a while. Because he was getting more and more confused, Jack himself did not want to admit to his illness and has kept it hidden from the people around him. She said that he came home with the strangest stories and that he always brought up more things from the past and sometimes twisted them to Jack's advantage. She was also aware of the crazy antics her son was up to. But according to Jack, she had nothing to say about it because she was just a housewife who was not allowed to interface in anything. The woman has had a fairly tough few months and has been mentally abused several times. Mick then went to find out what Jack was doing and tracked him to the clubhouse where he found chaos. He took a statement from everyone and also said that he thought Vanessa was behaving strangely when she was at the station the other day. He suspected something was going on, but didn't have the time to have a proper talk with her at the time. He has detained Jimmy and Brady, and the two men will be questioned at the station. After I finished my statement, I made my way to the hospital to see my baby girl. The doctors told me that no major damage was done by the bullet, but that she had lost too much blood. She has heavy pain relief and receives extra blood to strengthen. Every now and then she wakes up, but she is very confused and not completely in her senses. It will take a while until she wakes up completely clear-headed. Jack, on the other hand, is in a coma after having a bad epileptic fit at the clubhouse. Scans show that the tumor has grown and that there is a small chance that he will wake up. And if he does wake up, his life expectancy is unfortunately not long. I have some hope that he will wake up so he can get justice for all the antics he's been up to. But I'm afraid I'll have to make do with what others know and what he's told us. I just spoke to West, Asher mumbles as he grabs a chair and sits down next to me. Oh yes, I forgot that Vanessa threw some kind of plot twist into the story about West. The man in question could not be found himself, but apparently Asher tracked him down. What did he have to say? I ask, looking at him sideways with one eyebrow raised. Navy sighs and looks away. He and West were very close, so I suspect it's not good. Her was blackmailed by Jimmy. Apparently used weed from him, but he hasn't always been able to pay Jimmy. In addition, he and Jimmy were physically together a few times, and Jimmy threatened to distribute a video of them together if he didn't work as a mole for him and his dad. Asher wriggles his fingers in his lap and throws a nervous look at me. Is it? I whistle and he nods. Yes, he knew about Vanessa and told Jack a lot. On the other hand, there wasn't much juicy to say because Vanessa fit in so well with the people at the club. He has tried several times to get out, but always in vain. He hopes that our relationship will work out. But I told him I needed some time, he mumbles, and I put an arm around his shoulder. I'm sorry this happened, man. I think the club will forgive him. So maybe you can eventually do that too, I say calmly, and he nods with a small smile. Soft moans come from the bed, and I turn my eyes to Vanessa. I actually expect her to wake up again and then fall asleep again, but it seems that this time, with great effort, she opens her eyes and actually keeps them open. I squeeze her hand gently and stand up, lean over her and run a hand through her hair. Hey baby, I say softly, and it takes a few seconds for the recognition to come to her face. Jackson, she croaks, and I wave to a cup of water. Asher picks it up and hands it to me. I gently push her head up to make it easier for her to drink. She puts her head back with a moan and closes her eyes for a moment. I gently caress her cheeks and wait for her to recover a bit. How are you feeling? I ask as Asher whispers in my ear that he's going to fetch the nurse. Like I got shot, she says with a small smile, and I chuckle. She looks at me and squeezes my hand. What happened? She asks softly, and I sigh deeply. After Jack shot you, he had an epileptic fit. You were both transported here in an ambulance. They drove you straight to the OR to remove the bullet. The bullet didn't hit anything vital, so now it's mainly a matter of recovering and not getting shot again, I say with a wink, and she rolls her eyes in response and giggles. And, Jack? She asks carefully, and I give her a sympathetic smile. I know he's done some bad things, but I think a lot of it stems from a timor end. It's okay, honey. I don't blame you for worrying. Jack is currently in a coma, and the question is whether he will come out. It doesn't look good, I say, and she sighs deeply. I update her on the conversations with Mick and the conversation he had with Lisa about Jack. What about Brady? What about him? She asks, and now it's my time to roll my eyes. You mean that idiot? And she looks at me questioningly after my comment. That's what I'd called him in my head. Mick guessed he wanted to move up the ranks, so we did as Jack said. It's not sure because the man in question doesn't want to talk. Who knows? Maybe we'll hear that later. I answer her question with a shrug, and she nods with a frown. A nurse enters with Asher in tow. She examines Vanessa and tells her that the doctor will examine her further during his next round. It is 2 days later when Vanessa is allowed to go home. I force her slightly to live with me temporarily in the clubhouse due to her injuries. But who am I kidding anyway? Secretly, we both know it's for more selfish reasons. Jack is not yet woken up from his coma, but is otherwise reasonably stable. Jimmy and Brady are still being held in custody, but Mick has said he suspects Brady will at least get the best out of it because he has no criminal record. Jimmy has a fairly large criminal record, but it was always only handled by Jack, so Jimmy got away with everything. Mick has started a procedure to find a new commissioner. I believe another bureau is helping him with that. Vanessa has at least the next 4 weeks off to heal completely, and I secretly can't wait to spend so much time with her. I turn over in bed and look at her face. She has a sly frown between her eyebrows, and I gently rub it with my index finger. "You're staring," she mutters, as she puts an arm over my shoulders and presses against me. "Yup," I mumble, and I pull her closer to me. I sniff her familiar scent and feel myself completely relaxed. "Did you sleep well?" she asks with her head in my neck, and I nod with a hum. "You're not going back to the mumbling grumpy giant again, are you?" She giggles, and I push myself back with a questioning look on my face. "What did you call me?" I growl softly, and there's a twinkle in her eye that I hadn't seen in a while. "That's what I used to call you in my head. The grumpy giant," she mutters with a giggle, and I chuckle. "I can indeed remember that you once called me that." I grin and roll her gently on her back and bend over her without putting weight on her shoulder. Her legs come around my waist, and she presses me against her to get some friction. She closes her eyes as she gently rubs against my hardness. I moan softly as I try to keep my control. She's not yet strong enough for this kind of activity. I close my eyes and take a few deep breaths. I shouldn't have rolled myself on her, but I can't resist either. "Please, Jackson," she whispers as she slides her hands over my chest. "You need to rest, baby girl," I say as I lay my head on her neck and let my nose slide back and forth there. "I'm not made of glass," she almost growls, and her hands slide dangerously lower, and my hips automatically seem to want to find her hands. "Is it?" "It's not like you don't want to," she makes her point by squeezing my hardness, and I moan loudly. I sit up and pull her hands away from me. I push her hands next to her body as she pouts and looks at me sadly. "Do I need to help you with something, baby girl?" I ask as I run my hands over her legs and push them apart. She bites her lower lip and nods, letting her legs fall open and giving me a mischievous look. "I'll help you, but we won't do more than this. And you stay very still," I say with a wink, and she frowns confused. "But you," I tell her quietly, and she immediately shuts up and bites her lip again. "This is about you," I mumble and dive to my favorite place on earth. Chapter 20, to the aftermath. It's 5 weeks later. A long week in which I've been pampered enough for the next 10 years. And today is the day. The day I've had enough. I can no longer see my bed. I want to go to the toilet myself without a giant waiting next to my door. I want to make my own breakfast again and take care of other people instead of people taking care of me. I'm aware it sounds ungrateful. Believe me, I'm not. No one has ever taken care of me like Jackson has taken care of me for the past 2 weeks. And I am eternally grateful to him. But I'm restless. I want to do things again. And although my shoulder is not completely pain-free, it has healed so well that I can do everything again, according to my doctor. I roll myself out of Jackson's arms, which is a difficult mission in itself, and do my business in the bathroom. Then I sneak through the hallway and then towards the kitchen. There is no one downstairs yet, so I decide to make a nice breakfast for the whole group. I turn on the coffee so that it fills a large jug and start frying bacon and sausages. Then I make the best scrambled eggs I've ever made and toast some bread for the side. I use my good shoulder a bit more to stir because I notice that it starts to nag quickly, but otherwise I'm very happy with what I can do with my shoulder. The smell of breakfast has apparently spread through the building because Navy's head pops through the kitchen door and his eyes widen when he sees me standing there. "Nessa, does my brother allow you to be here?" he asks with a big grin on his face, and I roll my eyes at his nickname for me. "I'm fine. I'm not made of glass," I grumble, but a smile comes to my face when I hear Navy laughing. "Tell that to my big brother, but I'm glad to see you busy here, away from the clutches of Jackson," he says with a wink, after which he helps me serve the stuff on the table so that everyone can grab something for themselves. "And Navy, would you like to lift the piles of plates here?" "That's still a bit heavy for me," I ask behind my back while I'm laying out the cutlery, and he shouts a yes from the kitchen. The front door of the clubhouse opens and I look over my shoulder to see who is entering. My eyes widen when I see Mick walk in a police uniform. My nervousness skyrockets because I haven't seen him in a long time and I don't know where we stand in our relationship. Hey Vanessa, sorry to just walk in. I want to tell you some things, he says with some nervousness in his voice while he looks around. I kind of understand why he's a bit nervous. The last time the police were here didn't go so well. Only what it doesn't know is that these people are wonderfully understanding and that they don't blame the police. I made sure of that. Do you want to eat some breakfast? Then we can find somewhere to talk quietly, I say, and he nods with a smile. Meanwhile, Navy comes out of the kitchen and stops when he sees Mick. I shake my head and he nods a little reluctantly but still comes to shake hands with Mick. I grab some breakfast for me and tell Mick to grab some too. When we both have something, I take him to the kitchen where we can talk quietly at the counter. Oh, starting a bit unsure, and I look at him expectantly. I'm just getting straight to the point. Jimmy has been convicted for 8 years in prison for smuggling and dealing drugs, it begins, and I breathe a sigh of relief. To be honest, I expected a bit more, but this is already better than him going free, even though that chance was of course nil. Brady gets 1 year for threatening a person with a weapon, and it can never work for the police again, he says, and I nod. I certainly expected him not to be able to work as a police again, and I think the fact that it can no longer work for the course is already a huge punishment for Brady itself. And Jack? I ask, and he sighs. Jack is awake, as you know, but he's not in the right mental state to be questioned. He can't form normal sentences, let alone make a statement. It's sad to see him like this, and it's sad that an illness has affected his mind so much. Personally, I think he always had a grudge against the club, but he never did anything with it. And I think when the tumor grew in his head, his mind didn't know what was true and what wasn't. And that the story has taken on a life of its own in his head. Mick seems to be having a hard time with Jack's story, and I can't understand him. Jack and Mick have worked together for many years, with me only coming here just over a year ago. Mick always looked up to Jack and trusted him completely, and that trust has been damaged in a terrible way. It's difficult, but luckily no one else, apart from Jack himself, got off very badly, I mumble. He shot you, Vanessa, he whispers, poking his plate with a fork, and I sigh. That's right, but I'm not dead right. I do notice that I still find it all difficult to comprehend. But I want to put it behind me and move on with my life, I say while taking a big sip of coffee. My face twists because there's no sugar in it, but I let go this time. Will you come back to us when you're completely healed? He asks the question that I was dreading. Because honestly, I don't know. I think so. But my trust in the police has been damaged. And of course the chances are small that our next commissioner will be corrupt too. But I'm afraid I'll always question that one's honesty. Is that crazy? I carefully express the thoughts that have gone through my head in recent days, because they sound very strange to my ears. But Jackson says it's not crazy that I feel this way, and that it might be wise to talk to someone about getting over this. I know Jackson would fully support my choice if I were to go back, because he knows how much I love my job. But he wasn't going to lie to me either, and he told me he wouldn't mind if I joined the club fully. I think your thoughts are completely plausible, but I also think it's good to talk about this with someone, perhaps the psychologist who works in our office. She is of course specialized in working with police officers, and perhaps she can provide a different view of your job and your insecurities, he says, and I smile. He says exactly what Jackson said, and that pleases me. I'll think about it, and I'll make an appointment with her. Thanks, Meg. This breakfast smells awfully like it was made by my old lady. I hear someone growl behind me, and Mick looks at me with raised eyebrows, and I grin at him. I turn around, and Jackson is leaning against the wall with his arms crossed over his chest. An irritated look is on his face, and I giggle at my grumpy giants. Thanks, Vanessa. I'm off again. Mick gives me a hug and whispers a good luck in my ear, and I smile and thank him for everything. He walks out of the kitchen, and I mimic Jackson as I cross my arms and stare at him. Did you make breakfast? He mutters, and I walk over to him and wrap my arms around his neck. I blink my eyelashes sweetly, and I see bits of his angry attitude crack. Yes, I say softly, and he groans. His hands come on my hips, and he rests his head on my neck, one of his favorite places. Daily, I'm fine. I've left the heavy lifting to your brother. And besides that, I've really enjoyed the fact that I could do something for others again, as much as I've appreciated it these past few weeks. I'm tired of all the pampering, I say as I run my fingers through his hair and pull myself closer to him. The chemistry between us is unreal and I am amazed that it only seems to get stronger. To the outside world, he seems so rigid and unapproachable, but I see so much more than that. He is caring, protective, sweet and actually very gentle. Yes, he has his grumpy moments, but he keeps them more for the outside world than for me. Okay, baby girl, but I wish you would have just said that this morning, he says, raising his head and looking at me with those beautiful gray eyes. Would you have let me go? I ask teasingly with a raised eyebrow and a grins, the answer clearly on his face. That's what I tuft, I sass, and it chuckles softly, a sound that always gives me butterflies in my stomach. Yes, I know, I'm hopelessly in love, guilty. You're going to get spanked tonight for the stunt you did, he says playfully as his hands go to my ash and squeeze. Oh, my innocent eyes can't take this. Someone shouts behind us and I turn around and see Navy standing with his hands in front of his eyes. Jackson and I both laugh and let go. Navy drops his hands and grins. What did Mick want? He asked, and the attention of both brothers is intensely focused on me. I tell them in detail what Mick told me, including the part about the psychiatrist and coming back to the police force. I think you should go back to the course first, because I think you'll always ask yourself if you made the right choice to stay here or go work somewhere else, says Navy thoughtfully. I don't say it often, but I think he's right, Jackson says softly, and I giggle at his answer. I'll think about it for a while, I say, and they nod. But don't think that you will get out of a speeding ticket, gentlemen, I say with an accusing finger, and the men burst out laughing. Epilogue. 6 months later, I'm patrolling the road with Mick. We're in a civilian car on one of the busiest roads that go through the city. This is one of the most boring parts of my job, if I do say so myself. Give me some more action instead of going down the road all the time and taking someone who are driving too fast to ticket them. Ew, this burger is really bad, Mick says as he puts the rest of his burger back in the box and puts it away. Didn't I tell you not to have the fish burger? Those are so bad, I say with my mouth full of my delicious crispy chicken burger. Mick takes his sip of milkshake and looks back at the road. It's quiet at the moment, so I don't think we'll be here for very long. Are you going to the funeral? Mick asks, and I look outside doubtfully. Last week, Brady's body was found under suspicious circumstances in his jail cell. The prison suspects that he took his own life, but no suicide note has been found. The investigation is still ongoing, but a funeral will be held for family and friends next week. I've been invited by Brady's family, but they've also indicated that they understand if I don't want to come. He thinks so. I can't blame him at the moment, I say, and he hums affirmatively. He had already let us know that he wanted to go a few days ago. A black van speeding by gets my attention, and I see that Mick has spotted it too. I start the car and drive after the van. When I get ahead of him, I give him a stop sign, and the van obediently follows us to the nearest spot where we can stop. I get out of the car and walk towards the van. The window opens and I sigh at the sight of the occupants. Guys, I hope you know why I'm stopping you, I say with a raised eyebrow, and the two men nod like good puppies to my answer. Driver's license and registration, please, I say, holding up my hand. The driver gives me the documents and I look at them. Oh, Reed Davis, where were you going at the speed? I ask as I return the documents and pull out my tablet to type out a ticket. Back to the clubhouse. I'm late for my wife's birthday, he replies, and I grin. I knew he would be late. How happy will she be when you come home with a ticket, Mr. Davis? I ask seriously, and I hear him growl. Not happy. This is the second in the last 2 weeks, he mutters to himself, and I can't help but giggle. Is there anything I can do to help my friend get out of his ticket, ma'am? Asks a familiar deep voice from the co-driver's seat, and I have to do my best to give him my strictest look. You don't appreciate what you are initiating, sir, I say sternly, and a big grin appears on the co-driver's face. You will receive a ticket for speeding. Within a few days, you will receive a letter with which you can pay the ticket. Do you have any further questions? I ask my question with authority, but it is getting harder and harder to keep up this facade. They are idiots. Yes, ma, I have a question. Are you coming to my old lady's birthday tonight? Reed asks, and I can't hold back my laughter. Yes. I'll be done with work in an hour, so I'll be there after you finish dinner, I answer, while I finish my administration on the tablet. I can't wait to see you, baby, Jackson says with a big grin on his face, and I shake my head laughing. Watch your speed from now on. I'm serious, guys. I end the conversation while walking back to the car. The men drive past us and wave us goodbye. "What's that steal I saw?" says Mick as I sit in the car. "Yup," I mumble and I put everything back in its place and start the car to drive back to the police station. "I'm done with this day." "Isn't that," he begins. "The second time in 2 weeks." "Yup," I say and he bursts out laughing. He knows how annoying I find it to ticket people I know well, and these guys almost make it a sport to get as many tickets as possible, at least in the past few weeks. The men are very busy with the new location for a larger garage as Steele is in charge of. They grew out of the old garage after news of Jack and his false accusations against the club got out. Then suddenly, everyone seemed to have a Harley or other motorcycle that needed repair. Jackson has never been so busy and is also busy hiring or training more staff. We arrive at the office and I go to the changing rooms to change into festive clothes that I had brought with me in advance. "Looking good, honey." Mary whistles after me as I walk out of the police station and I wave to her with a smile. I wear a red maxi dress that fits me like a second skin. Oh, for that I wear a denim jacket for freshness from the outside. When I arrive at the clubhouse a little later, the party is already in full swing. I hear loud music and murmuring from people when I'm outside and I decide to go inside and immerse myself in the crowd. Early this morning, I decorated the whole room with flags and balloons, and it looks very nice with the disco lighting that is currently on. I spot Morgan and walk over to her and give her a big hug. She screams and thanks me for arranging the decorations and the cakes. Hammer comes to stand next to me with a sheepish smile, and I give him a hug to congratulate him. "Don't say anything. I'll tell her tonight," he whispers in my ear, and I laugh at his guilty face he gives me. He throws an arm around her shoulders and they walk towards other people to greet them. I look into space looking for my man. It shouldn't be difficult as he often towers over everything. He's leaning to the side against the wall with his eyes on me. Chances are he's been since I walked in. I walk over to him and jump into his arms. Because of my tight dress, I can't wrap my legs around his waist. But that doesn't stop me hanging with my arms on his neck and kissing him on the mouth. "I missed you," he mumbles into my mouth and I giggle. "I think you saw me less than 2 hours ago," I say with a happy roll of my eyes, and he shrugs with a grin. "I get the feeling you're speeding on purpose, just to get a ticket from me," I tease, as I lower myself onto my feet and wrap my arms around his waist. "I can't help it. It's very arousing to see you in your work mode." "Fucking SI," he mutters in a deep SI voice, and I know he means it. This voice mainly comes out in the bedroom, and it sends big shivers through my body. "I love you," I whisper, and I pull his head down for a deep kiss. His hands both come on my buttocks, and it pushes me close to him. I can't feel his excitement, and I know if we don't stop now he'll throw me over his shoulder, and to leave the party behind to move us into his bedroom. I put some distance between us, and I see disappointment in his eyes. I give him a quick promise for later in the bedroom and walk towards the kitchen. "You two are still so soggy together." "It's very SI to look at, I must say," I hear Morgan say as she sits on the counter eating a piece of cake. I blush and cut myself a piece too. It looks like the carrot cake was very popular because I got the last piece. Men used to claim the woman they wanted as their old lady in the middle of the room for everyone to see. "I think Morgan would do really well with that," Hammer says as he walks into the kitchen with Jackson in tow. "Shut up," mumbles Morgan through her mouth full, and I laugh at their banter. "Why are you hiding in the kitchen?" Jackson asks as he steals a bite of my pie and then hugs me with his arms around my waist. "Hey Faye, rest. It's very busy and I wanted to enjoy the cake quietly," says Morgan, while she cuts another piece of cake for herself. "How many pieces of cake is that today?" I ask with a giggle, and she shrugs as Hammer holds up her fingers behind her. My eyebrows shoot up and I choke on my piece of cake. Jackson calmly slaps me on the back and offers me a glass of water. "He spoke to Lisa today," says Hammer, and my eyes widen. We haven't heard much from Jack's family since his passing, which is not surprising since Lisa lost her husband and her son is in prison. That woman has been through so much that I completely understand that she has completely withdrawn and taken some time for herself. Jimmy was doing pretty well in prison, but he's still struggling with his father's death and not being allowed to attend the funeral. Lisa herself has sought help from a psychologist and she is doing a lot better. She has been able to accept a number of things and give them a place, says Hammer, after which he steals a piece of cake from Morgan, which gets him a deathly glare from his other half. I'm happy for her that she's doing well. I wish her that wholeheartedly, I say, and the rest agrees with me. We were never able to get anything out of Jack after he woke up from his coma. He could no longer speak normally and died in his sleep after a few weeks after having another epileptic attack. Lisa has apologized several times on behalf of her family, but no one has ever blamed her. Chef and Laura are also doing very well. Chef is currently employed by Jackson and regularly helps out in the kitchen of the club. Laura has started training as a hairdresser and is now doing an internship at a hairdresser in the city. I recently modeled for her and was very happy with the result. She thanked me several times for what I did and that she was very pleased with how I treated her when she was caught smuggling Jimmy's drugs. The evening is filled with dancing, love and laughter, and I am so glad I met this group of wonderful people. Morgan is beaming and she and Amber seem more in love than I've ever seen them. After midnight, Jackson and I go to his room and get ready for bed. In the shower, I give him a slow job, one of his and my favorite things to do in the shower. A little later, when we are lying naked next to each other in bed, our limbs entwined, I notice that my nerves are shooting up. Jackson, I whisper, and he hums in response, clearly still in his post-sex state. I need to tell you something, I say softly, running my hand through his light chest hair to distract myself from my nerves. His big hand takes mine and squeezes it. He turns on his side and looks at me intently. Are you pregnant? He asks very directly, and my eyes widen in surprise. How do you know? Finally blurts out, and it chuckles. Your body is more sensitive. Your breasts are a bit bigger and more sensitive. He seems to want to prove his point by squeezing my nipples. Something I normally like very much, but lately, indeed, a bit less. And besides, you missed your period, he says with a raised eyebrow, and I sigh deeply. It's almost unreal how in tune this guy's with my body. And I should have known he noticed I'd missed my period. I haven't done a test yet, but I do have one with me. I was actually hoping you wanted to do it together so we can celebrate together. Or not. If it's negative, I babble everything in quick succession, and it gives me a kiss to make me quiet. I'm pretty sure you're pregnant, and you have no idea how happy I'd be if it's positive. If it is negative, and I will do everything I can to change that result, he says with a wink, and I smile and get out of bed. I grab a bag from my handbag and fish out the pregnancy test and walk towards the toilet. A moment later, I come out of the bedroom and put the test straight on the table and plop down on the bed next to Jackson. Is it too fast? I asked, and it pulls me close and plays with my hand. And no, we're going to get married soon. So if he's negative now, we still have many years to make it a positive result, he says confidently, and I look at him with wide eyes. Get married, I say, surprised. Not that we hadn't talked about it yet, but he hadn't asked me yet. He takes my hand and holds it in front of my face. A beautiful diamond with a golden ring adorns my ring finger, and I look at him with great amazement. Will you marry me, baby girl? I could tell a whole story about how much I love you, what you mean to me, and how much better you make my life. But you know I'm a man of few words, and even though we haven't been together very long, I know I don't want to share my life with anyone else, he says with conviction, and tears are streaming down my cheeks. That's still a lot of words, I say with hiccups, and he chuckles. Yes, I really want to marry you, I reply, throwing myself against him and wetting his shoulders with my tears. After a while, I straddle his waist and lower myself onto his harness, completely forgetting about the pregnancy test. I start slow, but soon I bounce up and down hard, and we both moan and loudly from the friction that comes with this position. It's really my favorite. His hands knead into my breasts and then come to my stomach and hips, squeezing and helping me to go up and down harder. Eyes, so good, baby girl. I'm almost there, he moans and aloud, and those words cause a release to take over my body. Jackson follows me not much later, and I let myself fall on top of him to catch my breath. It was short but incredibly intense, and it was perfect. His long arms are around my waist, and we lie on top of each other for a while, enjoying this connection we have. Do you think the results are there yet? He mumbles sleepily, and I jump up off the bed. He completely forgot. I scream, and he laughs at my actions. He comes to stand next to me when I lift the test and see a cross. Positive, I whisper, and the tears start to flow again. Has the whole thing with hormones started already? The tears just keep coming. I'm so happy, baby, says Jackson, and it lifts me up and spins me around a few times. I love you, I say, laughing, and it puts me down on the floor and hugs me in a big bear hug. I love you too, baby girl. The end. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. This helps others discover the story too. Hit the bell icon for the latest updates, and stay tuned for more thrilling books.